Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy and Frames Sunday Kickoff Show for Week 4 here in 2024, the year of our Lord. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. I'm not the host. Nate Markham is the host, but he's letting me do the intro this week. And we got Jonathan Klanowski here over from Scotland, which is awesome to say that you're from Scotland and you're joining us on the show. And we got plenty of other people here from the Fantasy and Frames family ready to get you ready for Week 4 of the fantasy football season. So let's get going.
Well done, Jorge. Well done. Jonathan, I guess I must have missed the news. I didn't know where. I heard you guys talking about that you had moved or in the process of moving or have moved. Scotland seems fantastic. And I think it's serendipity. I just started, I know you're sitting down for this. I started a book yesterday and it doesn't have pictures. It's actually it's more it's actually an audio book. So let's not give myself too much credit here, like Hemingway or anything. But it is a Scottish, murder book, and it's all in Scottish. So I'll work on my Scottish accent. So when we come visit, I'll really piss off people by doing a shitty American Scottish accent while we're hanging out. How you doing, bud?
I'm sure. I was going to say, I'm sure you'd be the first person to do that here. So yeah, I'm sure.
Jorge, you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, you go with the shitty accent and then you talk about murdering all of them because that's what you read in the book. It's fantastic.
No, it's solving murders.
Solving murders.
I don't know. I'm only like 4 chapters in, so let's not get too carried away. And I have to somehow fit it in between podcasts, listening to, and work. It's life. But good morning to everybody. Good morning, you guys. It is week 4. We are currently at about the 25% mark, the quarter of the way through the season, which sucks because in what was that, Jonathan? 5, 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were all bitching and complaining about wish football season would get here and hurry up and slow drafts are taking too long. We got to get going. And then a snap of a finger, you've moved to Scotland and the football season is now 25% of the way done. We'll get to the Green Bay Packers today, but how excited are you for the potential return of Jordan Love? And what do you think is going to happen? Do you think he returns today?
I think he does. Everything that all the news that's kind of come out has been that he's going to return. Like Malik Willis has been so much better than I thought he was going to be. And I think it kind of shows how good LaFleur has been and his game plans. But to me, this Brian Flores defense is something that's completely different. I am a little bit nervous for it, but wherever I have Jordan Love, I'm pretty sure I'm playing him in all of them, mainly because of my other options. But I just feel like he's the kind of quarterback that can get it done against that defense. Is kind of the way that he creates, the way that he kind of is like off schedule stuff. Maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I feel as though he's the kind of quarterback that can get through that defense.
That's
maybe I'm being too biased, but I'm maybe a little bit quietly confident.
It's football. You're supposed to be biased. If you weren't biased, we'd be disappointed in you. Good morning.
I know. I mean, like, look at my hoodie.
Exactly. In the chat, good morning. Sorry, we're starting off on a bang here. You're really wanting to show something off, and I am. Jorge, I know. I can see you. You're excited.
I am. I'm very excited. So, Mr. Scampers, this is for you. I just got it in the mail yesterday. Brand new Anaheim Ducks jersey. Let me know how much you love this. This is pretty awesome. Making a nice little collection here, but I wanted to show the support for the Anaheim Ducks there. Totally has nothing to do with fantasy football, but I like the jersey. So what can I say?
I'm so confused. And Is Mr. Scamper's
He's a Ducks fan. He's an Anaheim Ducks.
The hell did I know that?
Well, now you do. See, boom.
Exactly. Well,
Loves it.
well, good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the awkward silence.
Charlene or Blake, you both, I see you in the chats. Is there anything that you guys like that maybe I have scattered around my house that I can show you and be like, look, Charlene likes math, so I have a calculator. And Blake likes questions about Jordan Addison or Darnell Mooney. And which one of these, receivers does he start as wide receiver 3? Non-PPR. Oh, man. I still think I probably go with Mooney just because I don't. Like, what's weird is because Addison, after last year, you would think in the non-PPR with all the touchdowns, and I mean, it was a little out of control. I just feel like I can trust Mooney. I mean, if you look at him over the last 2 weeks, he's been what? He's the wide receiver 18 over that time. And a lot of that is, good target volume. I don't know. I'm still leaning Mooney just because I think that I don't trust anybody really the first week back after any lingering issue. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you look at Mooney and you look at his ADOT, it's higher than Drake London's. You look at his target share, literally off by 2% from Drake London's. His first read percentage from Kirk Cousins, it's second on the team. But you look at the yards per target, 14 yards. Like, the guy is being targeted, and his yards after the catch per reception is the highest on the team with the wide receiver position. So, yeah, I think Mooney is the one you want to go with here.
Jonathan, any differing opinions?
So I do really like Mooney. He's been seeing much more volume than I thought he was going to coming into this year. I think I'd go Flowers. I know he had a really quiet week.
Wait, I didn't see
week.
Flowers.
Oh, was there not? Was it not?
No, it's Jordan Addison. Oh no,
Flowers.
Yeah. Holy shit! Reading. See, stupid glasses. Get out of here. There we go. That's better. Now I can actually see. They were fake anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going Flowers just because that he received double-digit targets in the first 2 weeks. That Bills game, I'm hoping, should be pretty high scoring. So I think he's got the safest volume, I would say. I do like Mooney this week, but yeah, I'm going Flowers.
Well, I'm gonna go back.
Yeah,
I miss Flowers.
You did, but it's okay. We can get you some Flowers, Nate. It's okay. It's crazy. His first read. So basically, when we're saying first read percentage, we're saying how often the quarterback is locking onto him first. Going through his progressions, he's being locked on 32.8% of the time. The next person or wide receiver is Rashad Bateman with 15.5%. So it's clear, just off of that, from the wide receiver position, that Zay Flowers is the guy for Lamar Jackson. So knowing that Flowers is back in play and going off what Jonathan just said, I would go Flowers, Mooney, then Addison.
Yeah, I'll read better. I do 100% own that one. Charlene says she's half Korean, so the math thing checks out. That's the most funny thing that I don't know if I'm allowed to
laugh or not. Yeah, yep. Exactly. Just not an approval. Yeah.
Excellent. That was not by design. It just happened to be the only thing in front of me. So, good morning, Z Smitty. Cole Kmet or Dalton Schultz? Yeah, Kmet does have Keenan Allen back, but without Tank Dell, with somewhat banged up pieces in Nico and maybe no Mixon, I could see the target case for Dalton Schultz. You guys a believer? I guess, Jonathan, are you a believer that Cole Kmet's week last week was simply just one of those weird off just because scenarios, or is Caleb progressing and he's going to start targeting the tight end, which is something that rookie quarterbacks do have a tendency to do? It's a little higher trust value there. Are you in on Kmet yet, or is it still the offense?
I think that trust value is if Keenan Allen is back. I think that's where we're going to see that trust, and we have seen it a little bit. I can't remember the number of targets that he saw in the first week, but if I'm remembering correctly, he saw sort of 10, 11 targets that first week, Keenan Allen. So that's my worry with Komet, is that it just goes back to the usage that we saw the first 2 weeks. Schultz isn't that exciting. He hasn't seen a lot of work so far. I think because of no Tank Dell, I think I'm probably going that way. Yeah, I think that would be the only reason for me. Yeah, is my worry with those with Komet kind of seeing fewer targets there.
And that's fair. We're gonna lead right here where he says, Vegas. How much do you look into Vegas odds when you're making a decision when it comes to start sets?
I feel for me that's like a tiebreaker when I'm really stuck between a player and I really, it's. But what I like to look at first and foremost are just the cold hard math. And when Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze have been on the field, Cole Kmet's first read percentage is 11.8%. So he's down the pecking order as far as I'm concerned. So I would go Schultz in this matchup.
Yeah, and I would as well. I've been burned before by the one-off weeks for tight ends and situations like that. Good morning to you, Bayou Bengal. Everyone, hope all's having a blessed morning. It is football time. What time is it there, Jonathan?
It is 2:20 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Nice. That's cool to say it that way. I'm going to start doing it that way too. I know, but I would like to. Carrie would like it. She likes me. She likes all that stuff. So that's why she likes Jonathan more than us. She's probably disappointed that she's not up right now watching or listening. That's all she has to do, she said. But let's listen and watch as if I could drag this on any longer, I would, because I want Keith to have to be here to try to explain.
We got a couple more questions before Keith gets on here. David Ibrahim will be with us shortly. All right, Charlie, you need 3 full PPR: McLaurin, Ridley, Yeshivas, Keon Coleman, Myers, Debo. I see Yoshi, and I think Super Mario Brothers. That's the first thing I think of whenever I see that spelling. And Debo, if he plays. Jonathan, what do you think?
So after last week, I'm definitely going McLaurin. He's someone that I've got in my home league. I was really worried after the first 2 weeks. He was on my bench last week, but I still won, so we're all good. And he's straight back in my lineup this week. So I think hopefully we just see Jaden Daniels progressing more and more as the season goes on. He is the best receiver there, so I have much more confidence in him now. I would then probably say Myers, just because of the target volume, especially if it's full PPR. It's gonna be him and Bowers, and then I'm probably going Debo if he does play. I just think the upside is always there with someone like Debo Samuel. So I think they are my 3.
Jorge, and any disagreement with anything?
Yeah, I think I would go. I agree with. I would go McLaurin, Yeshivas, and Debo would be my only concern, because I think Bowers is going to be locked in as the number 1 guy, and I think that's going to not be great for Jacoby Myers. I'm sure Jacoby Myers will have a decent day, but for upside, I'd rather swing the fences with Debo and Yoshi and McLaurin.
Yeah, the Yeshivas is the tricky one, because I mean, he's back in the position that we wanted him in, which is in the slot. And in the slot, his upside, I think, is increased as far as what his skill set is best used for. The downside is you now have 2 other targets ahead of him. And so it's like, I tend to want to lean that way too, because I think the upside's there. But McLaurin, Debo for me, and then choose between Yoshivas and, like, I'd probably put Ridley just a little bit above Myers, just because Cleveland's secondary I trust to try to at least clamp down the passing game, because you ain't got to worry about Zamir White. If we've learned anything through 4 weeks, Zamir White sucks. But Charlene, we wish you well. Mr. Scampers, Jorge, are you sitting Garrett Wilson versus Pat Surtain for Shaheed or JSN?
So Surtain actually hasn't been, or Surtain rather, has not been as locked down as he had been last year. So I'm not exactly scared away from Garrett Wilson. I do like this is a situation where it's you look at the point totals and what's implied here, and I think this. Let me just double check to make sure I'm saying this correctly. My vote is for JSN versus the slot wide receiver for Detroit. So I would go JSN, then Garrett Wilson, then Shaheed. But I think all three of them are going to have great days. So literally take your pick.
How about you, Jonathan? Are you?
I always struggle, at this point in the season, sitting someone like Garrett Wilson. I know that the volume, the production hasn't quite been there, but he's still seeing plenty of targets. I think it was something like 9 last week. So I think I'm still going Garrett Wilson, but I could be easily swayed to go JSN because I know it's been a little bit up and down, but I think he's showing plenty of upside.
I know this thing. It's kind of like, I don't know if Jackson and then if Jackson Smith is the good version and Jackson and Jigba is the bad version. And we've been getting one or the other. And then we kind of get a neutral game with all three of the names together. But he's definitely been Jekyll and Hyde-esque. And Garrett Wilson, despite the matchup, I still think we'll see the heavy target share, and it's just too hard to pass right now. So I'll lean there. Good morning to you, Albert. Drew, man, he's got a tough question, I have to admit. I'm going to let you guys answer this so I don't have to, because then he won't be mad at me on our show Wednesday night. It's the toughest decision he has this week. He needs to start 2. And I can tell you, I don't know if this is one of Drew's good teams or his bad teams, but he has some teams that he's so disappointed in. But maybe this will this will get him back on track.
So, yeah. So, first of all, if you haven't gone on our TikTok page or gone to see our YouTube shorts, Drew is waxing, or you watched Fourth and Frames last week. Drew has been nothing but waxing poetic about George Pickens, and this is his time. As John Cena would say, your time is up, my time is now. That's what George Pickens is saying right now. So it's hard for me to go against George Pickens in this question. And then I'd still go Brian Robinson Jr. for the Commanders.
Yep. I mean, that's the 2 I'm looking at as well. No Eckler. I'm not really worried about Nichols doing anything to steal significant touches or targets. Chuba had a good week last week, but at the same time, I fear the offense won't nearly be as potent as they were last week. I like Andy Dalton in a decent matchup, but I feel like maybe there was a little too many fireworks last week to get overly excited about another. What do you have? 60% of the touches in 160 yards or something crazy. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately. Jonathan, any variance there?
Hubbard was the only one that I'm tempted by, just because that we know he's getting obviously the vast majority of the work there. We saw that he's getting work in the passing game as well. So I could be tempted by Brian Robinson and Chuba Hubbard there. That it's between Hubbard and Pickens for me. And I think because of what we saw last week, I'm probably a little bit more confident than you with the Panthers, just because we saw it is. Look, they're not a great team, but they are at least now a functional professional team, which is quite nice.
Exactly.
That's nice.
So so I think that's the one that I'm maybe slightly differing on.
Makes sense. Drew, I know that you honestly can make the decision yourself, and it's going to be the correct decision. But
Well, speaking of correct decisions, let's make the right decision and bring on Keith Fleming, who's back in the studio right now. How about we do that? What's up, Keith?
Good morning.
Morning, guys.
We're
Is
sorry,
it
man.
morning or morning?
Yeah, are you morning or is it morning?
I mean, it's tough being a Georgia/Atlanta fan. I try to tell people that and remind them constantly, but proud of the way the Dogs fought back. But yeah, that was brutal. You know, we got to think about 27 seconds of enjoying that game with the lead and then lost it right back. But I was really proud of the way they fought back. So with the playoffs too, it's not as dire as it would have been this time last year, where I think 12 teams now make the playoffs. So I don't think a 7-point loss on the road to Alabama is going to hurt you at the end of the year. But yeah, it sucks, especially because they've kind of owned us, even during the Kirby era. So, but hopefully we'll play them again. But we got a Falcons Saints game today. I'm sure I'll get my heart broken all over again. So,
Well, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about this matchup, Keith. I stalled and delayed and answered questions just so you had a chance to discuss and dissect and, well, hopefully bring some optimism back to Georgia. And we look at New Orleans, who's traveling to Georgia to take on the Falcons, who are 3-point home favorites, 41-point total. Olave this morning was mentioned that he's going to try to play, most likely will play. Man, that hamstring that popped up on a Friday, just, it's a little scary to me, but we'll see what you guys think. Alvin Kamara's missed some practice or at least been limited with the ribs, but I think it was definitely more maintenance, and he's supposed to play. Demario Davis on the defensive side is out. A.T. Perry is out. Cedric Wilson, who would be the next man up, was limited practice, didn't practice on Friday. Signs are positive, but not great. Cesar Ruiz is out. And on Atlanta side, luckily, after all that, Keith, you only have one person out. Unfortunately, it's Caleb McGarry, who, on that offensive line, you hate to see, but not at least it's not leaning in that direction. So you have some potential. So Keith, our must starts, right? Alvin Kamara, Bijan, no others that you are absolutely 100% throwing out there, correct?
I think London belongs on that list. If you look, Saints are one of the worst defenses versus vertical breaking routes. Drake London right now is one of the best wide receivers in football at running those routes, having the most success on them. And I think that they are going to try to exploit that. I would love to say Cal Pitts, but I can't anymore. That stat that came out that he had not been, I don't think they've ran one play that he was the first read target all year, I believe is what I read. And that is just, as a Falcons fan, infuriating. I mean, why did we spend a top 4 draft pick on this guy? He has a great matchup. The Saints have struggled, obviously, with tight ends. We saw what Dallas Goedert did to this team last week, but I can't trust saying him. So I think London does need to be added to that list. And then in deeper leagues, I would also consider Mooney. When you look what he has done over the last 2 weeks, he's getting a lot of volume, a lot of targets in this offense. And he also is very good. I think he's 7th in fantasy points per route run on vertical breaking routes. So that is, I think, the way the Falcons are going to try to exploit the Saints. My biggest concern is with the issues, with the offensive line missing McGarry. You just look in the Chiefs game, we were moving the ball pretty much at will, and then had those 2 offensive line injuries. And then, boy, the game changed on a dime, because I just don't think Cousins had time to push the ball down the field. So that's going to be the real question. But I think those are the automatic starts, would be London, Kamara, Robinson.
Yeah, and like you said, London's definitely been the more name recognition between the receiving group, but Darnell Mooney's been wonderful. We talked a little bit about him just earlier. Well, the last couple of weeks now, really since Cousins kind of got that first game out of him, he's been the wide receiver 18 overall. London has been the wide receiver 12. So Cousins is capable of supporting 2 wide receivers. Doesn't have to support Kyle Pitts anymore. Luckily, it doesn't seem like. So takes more of the targets their way. Jonathan, on the New Orleans side, as you said, what are you doing with Chris Olave? I mean, let's say he does play, hamstring injuries that pop up on Friday, that scares me. But does it scare you enough that you would sit him?
This isn't a great answer, but it massively depends on what your options are. My big fear if he does play is that he's basically running decoy routes, and it's basically they don't want it to be just Shaheed that they're focusing on, and that they want the defense to kind of at least at least put, not kind of completely bracket Shaheed, because outside of Shaheed, it would
Yeah.
basically be Shaheed and Kamara, and that's pretty much it. That's my massive fear with Olave. So if you do have someone that's kind of like a borderline sort of wide receiver 3-ish, I'm reading all the reports up until he goes to kind of try and work out exactly what sort of situation he's in. But I really wouldn't mind sitting him, because my fear is that it ends up that he gets kind of 2 targets or something like that by the end of the day, and it really wouldn't be that much of a shock. As you said, these are the kind of worst kind of injuries when it's a hamstring on a Friday. Like, he's practiced full for 2 days, and then he's limited. Those ones are often a real issue.
It is. And, one of the issues people will have, Jorge, is if it's not Olave, or if people have the same agreement, who do you pivot to? The obvious seems to be Rashid Shaheed, but is there anybody else on that team, honestly, that you're comfortable pivoting to?
I mean, I don't even know if he's for like a normal fantasy football league. No, but and Keith, you're the expert here, so you probably know better than I. I don't even know if Mason Tipton is available on DraftKings at the wide receiver position for the Saints, but has 30% route run per team drop back, catch percentage of 75%. I mean, I can't honestly give you a straight answer and say that that's an option, but he does exist. So the answer to your question is no.
Yep.
Ringing endorsement. He does exist.
He does. And, I mean, the talk about Cedric Wilson with him not practicing on Friday, I have not looked out to check that availability with him. At this point, if you're checking Twitter to see if a fourth target option on New Orleans is available, your team's in some trouble. And so maybe some other teams aren't in as much trouble as we are, but I do have a question here, and I'd like to utilize one of our ringing endorsers, Underdog. Jorge, what can you get if you sign up for Underdog now?
So Underdog is fantastic. If you use it's no longer Underdog Fantasy, they want to be called Underdog now, because there's prop bets and all sorts of things there. That goes beyond fantasy. If you use the promo code FRAMES, you can now get matched up to $1,000 when you sign up. It used to be $100, but now you want to put $1,000 down, which kudos to you. You'll get $1,000 on top of that for Underdog Fantasy. So head over there, try their prop games, try their over-unders. Lots of good stuff over there. Lots of fun. So, and it's not ridiculously expensive to play in these matchups. So, I think that's all a win-win. So promo code FRAMES for Underdog. Go check it out.
With that being said, I'd like to introduce a new segment to the Sunday morning kickoff show. It's going to be for each game we will give you, if you sign up your money and make some bets, we're going to collectively pick out one underdog pick of the game that I found fascinating, that I think is a worthwhile venture. But then again, maybe you guys may disagree. So the first underdog pick of the game between New Orleans and Atlanta is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts. We've talked about him too much. We're not sure exactly what to do, but his underdog total is 6.95 fantasy points. Keith, if you signed up at Underdog and you had your hard-earned money there and you made one pick and it was Kyle Pitts, would you take the higher or lower on 6.95 fantasy points?
Is that they don't do PPR, correct? This is standard scoring.
Half PPR.
Half PPR.
Half PPR.
Yeah.
I think I would go over. He caught a touchdown week 1. Obviously, that would mean he's probably going to go over unless he caught an 8-yard touchdown pass, and that's it. Or actually, that would still make him go over, I guess, for the half-point PPR. 59-yard reception or 50-yard reception last week. Again, this Saints defense has had issues with tight ends. That's a really low number. I mean, I get it. But to me, for a guy that can break a play the way he can, kind of at any time, I think I'd kind of have to go with the over. I think he would have gone over, I believe, in 2 of the 3 games.
There you go. That is the first of the underdog picks of the game. Jorge, take us out of this matchup with some of the IDP options that, well, doesn't include Demario Davis.
Yeah, that hurts. Mr. Original hashtag tackle machine here at Fantasy and Frame. So that sucks. But, Pete Werner at the linebacker position is somebody, if you're looking for an LB3 or Pex. DL1/2 is Carl Granderson. Tyrann Mathieu has been playing like a man possessed, like just literally resurgent the past 2 weeks. 10 solo tackles, 0 assisted, 3 PDs, 2 interceptions, averaging 16 points per game using Fantasy Pros IDP scoring. Love, love, love. For Atlanta Falcons, I will never not trust Jesse Bates again. Justin Simmons, still not in on Justin Simmons. I think this is more of a Bates show for IDP. I think Troy Anderson is playing as well this week. So him, obviously. Matt Judon, I love Matt Judon. He'll have a bounce back game this week as well. So yeah, give me those guys for IDP purposes, and Caden Ellis as well. Caden Ellis.
So basically, everybody on defense right now we have for this matchup. I'm joking. I'm kidding. Let's pivot. Let's go from that to an IDP question for Charlene. She wants to know: Will McDonald or Kyle Van Noy at defensive line, and then secondarily, Jalen Petrie or Shamari Connor, the Chiefs at defensive back. She also needs one of these in an IDP flex. So sounds like really choose 3.
Yeah, I would go. So this is probably going to be atypical of a response for me. I would go Will McDonald and then Petrie and Kamari Connor. I would not go Van Noy. Just because I don't think he's going to be able to get to Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's just going to run all over the field tonight. So we look at Kamari Connor. This is somebody who, for the Saints, technically PFF has him as a safety. Over the past 2 weeks, 11 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 7 defensive stops. When played in coverage, he is allowing not great numbers, which is great for real football. He's leading the team in slot snap counts. He's not doing too bad either in box snap counts. So I think you have the tackle upside both at defensive back positions, and Will McDonald is a beast. So yeah, those are the 3 I would go with.
Yeah, Connor with in now really starting to play more. He's playing the role that L'Jarius Sneed played really well. And that's the one thing that you're seeing is utilization of Spags' defense with that. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. I worry about the Chargers offense as a whole, but without both Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, I don't be surprised to see 3 or 4 nickel blitzes from Connor at any particular moment during that game. So I think that a 5-6 tackle and a sack is definitely in line right there. So I agree with your picks exactly. So there you go, Charlene. Sounds like Kyle Van Noy is going to have DL3 upside. Scampers agrees with you, Jonathan. He's benching Olave everywhere he can. He agrees with me that Jameson Williams is the wide receiver 1 in the league. Of course, I agree with you too. And I know that's not what he's saying, but that's what I read. Sometimes it's interpretation, as they say. And that's what I interpret. Mr. Scampers is telling me that JMO is number 1, not only on the score sheet, but in our hearts always. And Christian Kirk bounce back. We'll get to Jacksonville soon and go there. Charlene has one more comment that I'm right there too. And it's unfortunately going to be the last game of the week that we talked about. Do we know if Laporta's playing? So right now, I think that if they said they had to make a decision, the answer would be yes, that he's going to play. I don't know how much of that confidence I have. But she has Trey McBride, who's out, Evan Ingram out, and Brock Wright, Wolf. So, yeah, well, good luck, Charlene. We'll let's get past that.
Well, she says that Aikens, Munt, and Hurst are on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I mean, Keith, you're a big fan of Eric All, right? No, Aikens is. I wonder if Eric All is available.
Oh, Eric All is definitely available on the waiver wire. Again, this needs to be a full point PPR league, but this guy is basically seeing a target on 30% of the routes he's run the last 2 weeks. He's caught at least 4 passes both of the last 2 weeks. So the Bengals are making an effort to get him the ball. That is abundantly clear. And he was tight end 20 and tight end 15 the last 2 weeks in full point PPR leagues. So to me, you can do a lot worse than Eric All, who the Panthers are 30th versus tight ends. They've really struggled. And I think the Bengals are slowly moving him into a role where he's going to play a good bit of snaps. I mean, if you look, Gesicki's snaps have gone up the last 2 weeks, but so have his. And it's the other guys that are losing snaps overall. It's basically those are the 2 tight ends that are on the field. And then again, if he runs routes, he is going to 100% get targeted because I think he has 15 total routes. 21 total routes the last 2 weeks and 8 catches.
So being in Scott Fishbowl, at least the PPR, like you said, Eric All, that would probably benefit the most. I mean, the most likely opportunity to see is probably to stick with Laporta and just wait. Given that, I mean, because what's the variance there between, let's say it's 0 and, I don't see any 7 plus points out of anybody guaranteed that you have listed there. But I'm sorry, I feel so depressed.
Also, sorry, I was going to say Laporta also had a full practice, I believe, on Friday. So all things are trending kind of in the right direction for him.
Yep, exactly. I agree. So there you go. What's up, Preston? All right. Preston says, hey, Fantasy and Frames fam, he is benching Michael Pittman, smart, to start Michael Wilson, Trey Tucker, Pop Douglas. I'm guessing that's the way he wants us to answer because number one, of course, who his team is, and then the emphatic cap letters.
Pop. Yeah.
Exactly. Right now he's right. Hey, whatever. It pops literally. Right now I'm riding with Wilson against Washington and no McBride. Keith?
Yeah, I really like Trey Tucker this week as well. With obviously Mayer out, Adams out, but Michael Wilson running practically 100% of the routes for the Cardinals, playing 100% basically of the plays. And I think he actually does a lot more of what McBride does than any other wide receiver, which is a lot of the underneath yards after the catch type routes. And then the big thing is this is a defense that plays zone at a very high rate. And that is who Wilson feasts against. Like Wilson, it's unbelievable if you look at his man zone splits. When he plays a defense that plays a good bit of man, you do not want to look Wilson's way. You want to look at Dortch and other options, but that is not a concern this week. And Washington's secondary earmuffs Jorge is atrocious versus wide receivers. So I think Michael, he's one of my favorite plays on DraftKings this week by far. I think he's 4,200, something insane. And I think that he's got a great chance to score 10, 15 points.
Yeah. I want every piece of that offense of that game that I can get, just because I get the feeling it's going to be one of those back and forth. Not a lot of defense in that matchup there. Not a lot of defense. Let's go to Carolina. Cincinnati Bengals, 3.5 point favorites at Carolina, 47.5 point total. Trent Brown for the Bengals has been put on IR. Sheldon Rankins is out. BJ Hill is out. The opposite side, Carolina lost Damian Lewis, offensive guard, who's out. Adam Thielen, of course, has been put on the IR. Jonathan, I know that we're we're right now. Jamar Chase. I think Joe Burrow is in that you're starting situation. Can't think of too many scenarios where he's now not going to be in. Higgins and Deontay both at minimum are going to be wide receiver 3 flex worthy. I think much higher than that personally, but you never know the type of league that everybody's playing in. But what about Andy Dalton? We briefly touched on him earlier. At what point are you comfortable with an Andy Dalton start in a 1 quarterback league? Is there any confidence? Is there a specific name that you're like, yeah? Because I mean, I have him at like QB 19. I don't see a path, but last week we showed he had that potential. Cincinnati's defense is garbage.
Yeah, I think the upside is there. It was kind of as I said before, there are like functional pieces to this offense. Like Deontay is a great wide receiver. They have improved offensive line. They are probably not the worst in the league now, which is like genuine improvement. Like Chuba Hubbard is a good, not great running back. So I don't think he's a horrendous play today. Like again, like is he going to hit the marks that we saw last week? Probably not. But I don't mind him as a streaming option if you're really struggling. But I think there are probably better options out there for you. But yeah, I think as I said before, we've seen that this offense can actually work fairly well. Deontay for me, like I'm trying to start him everywhere I can. I know that there were some issues with the injury this week, but with Adam Thielen out, Johnson saw 12 targets or something last week. That is kind of what I was expecting coming into this year. He was someone that I drafted everywhere just because I really just thought he was going to see so much volume on a team that is likely going to have plenty of negative game scripts. It will probably be something that we see on a continual basis. And he is a wide receiver that they just haven't had over the last year. Someone that gets open. He's not the most explosive player, but he is someone that will consistently get open. So yeah, I'm more than happy to play him again today. Higgins is, I think we've seen with some of these players that someone like Ayuk who hasn't practiced that much over the summer, that it might be a little bit slow to start. I know last week wasn't the best, but he is someone that I think in that Bengals offense, I'm still more likely to start him just because of that offense.
Yeah, there's not many options outside of what we just mentioned on Carolina that I comfortably would start. Chuba Hubbard definitely is in that lead role. Zach Moss appears to be in the lead role as well. Jorge, if you had to choose between the two, are you leaning Zach Moss in this game, or do you think Chuba Hubbard? I mean, I know that it's not a situation that necessarily affects everybody, but you know what? It's fun. You have to choose one. So this way we can hold it over your head and say you picked the wrong one, because we just honestly like the gamesmanship of it all. Zach Moss, Chuba Hubbard.
No, I do appreciate that logic there. I'm going to go Zach Moss. I think this Bengals offense is going to get back on track after getting defeated on Monday Night Football. And I think Zach Moss is going to be obviously he's going to get all the snaps. I do like Chase Brown from the PPR upside, but I think Moss is going to get all the red zone touches, and that's what really matters.
There you go. Good point. Takes us to
I was just going to very quickly say about Chase Brown. He like if you look at his underlying stats, he's been really efficient with the touches that he's getting. The only issue is that he's not seeing nearly as many touches as Zach Moss. I don't mind him as a kind of buy low target if you can try and trade for him, because I think there is a possibility of him seeing more and more work if he continues to be this efficient.
Not going to get you from my team with all that hype talk.
No,
there,
I already
should have done is
made that very clear.
You should have went the opposite route and talked about how good Zach Moss is and how shitty Chase Brown has been, and now is a sell low opportunity. You are not very deceptive. So I'm onto your game. I know this is the reverse psychology of it all, but I put something in. I sent you a trade offer. I'm kidding. I will never do that. Chase Brown forever. All right, guys. Underdog pick number 2 of the afternoon will be the aforementioned Yoshivas. His receiving mark is set at 30.5 receiving yards. We're just going to go around the frames. We're going to go higher or lower. Consensus with you 3 will make that decision. Jorge, start with you, friend. Yoshivas in the slot. 30.5 receiving yards. Higher or lower?
Higher.
One higher. Keith?
I'm gonna go lower.
Got one lower. Jonathan? You're the
I'll
tiebreaker.
go higher.
All right. Well, we have a higher for Yoshivas. So now that's 2 in. Remember, if you go over to Underdog, you can do the Champions Leagues where you can make all of these picks and put them together, win some cash, send tips to Jorge, let him buy more jerseys for people that for the what is that, Anaheim, the Mighty Ducks. You can have them all. Okay, he's gonna show it again. Sorry. It's just
for all the California Anaheim people. We cover hockey now, fantasy and friends. So Mr. Scampers again, that is for you. No, it's not actually for you, but representing the Ducks is for you. There we go.
Psych.
If you pick an Underdog and use promo code frames and you win, you too can purchase your own Anaheim Mighty Ducks jersey. Jorge will not give you his. Let's move on to the Windy City. Los Angeles Rams travel to Chicago, who are 3.5-point home favorites, 40.5-point total. Cooper Kupp is out again this week. Keenan Allen did get a full practice in on Friday, trending that he should be playing. Kevin Byard on the defensive side, Jorge. Oh, you know what? Speaking of defensive side, we didn't talk about IDP for that last matchup there. I apologize. Cincinnati, you're looking at, between Trey and Hubbard. Eileen Trey. If you had to choose one.
Yeah, he's the DL8 in Fantasy Pros IDP scoring, obviously. It's Trey. Linebacker position for Cincinnati, it's Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. For Carroll, the defensive back situation, I'm not too thrilled about for Cincinnati. I think you can do better. On the flip side, for Carolina, for me, it's really Shaq Thompson.
That's about it for me. Carolina didn't have. There's not much IDP in that matchup, even though it's a 47.5-point total. Nobody really. Volume play for both linebackers, and the hope that you can get some pressure on Andy Dalton with Trey. But that Carolina, as we like Keith was mentioning, the Carolina offensive line has been better. Pressure rate. Now, losing Damian Lewis is huge. Don't get me wrong. There's no doubt about that. We'll see the impact of that going forward. Speaking of impact of lost players, both the Rams and the Bears talked about Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Kevin Byard being limited on Friday does limit that just a little bit, but the Rams are banged up. This seems like a Chicago game that many different pieces could get going. The only what I think, must start realistically in any format is going to be Kyren Williams, who I was way wrong last week. And actually every week I like Kyren. I just didn't think that this offense could continue to move the ball with the pieces that they're missing across the offensive line and even on defense to get back on the field, but they've made it work. Can the Chicago Bears make the running back position work, Jorge? Is Roshan this extended look that we're going to get? Is it just going to be more cannibalization across the board for the Bears running backs where nobody is start worthy? Not that anybody really is right now, or does it mean a sign of positive things to come that they actually may have a true, RB1-esque type running back that with this improving offense?
So the Rams defense on the season is allowing the third most rushing yards, 5.1 rushing average, and 4 touchdowns. Let me put it like this: everywhere I have Roshan, I got him for a reason, and I'm starting him. He's not going to be on my bench this week.
Yep, it's true. So going back to the last game, though, Mr. Scampers is just trying to make sure everybody knows how they can get their jersey as well by betting correctly. This does seem like a free one. This is one of the scorchers, so it's 1.1x. It's Deontay Johnson over 5.5 receptions, which, yeah, I mean, if Andy Dalton throws the ball 25, 35 times, you have to believe Deontay Johnson is going to get 24, 34 of those targets.
You know what his target rate is versus man, which the Bengals, I believe, are top 5 in running man defense in the NFL? 41%. So expect Deontay to get peppered with targets today.
Yes, that is very much so. Thank you for that. Kid has, I admit, I really like stats. It's also 3 weeks into the season. So, of course, take all of our stats with as much background as possible. But Deontay did that last year, too, even with Pittsburgh. He really exploited a lot of man coverage. And so go back to the Bears scenario there. Jorge, like I said, Roshan, Jonathan on LA. Who's the flex? I mean, of all the receivers, we've done the DeMarcus Robinson dance. We've talked about, the Whittington waggle. Waltz, the Whittington waltz. That's a good one. And then, are you gonna put the tutu on and actually sashay around, or is it just you can't trust it? They're gonna do the old record scratch, and it's gonna be nobody.
I think for the good of everyone watching, I'm not going to put on a tutu. But
You're in Scotland.
Yeah,
it's damn near acceptable.
It's true. They might fight you about calling it a tutu. I'm probably not going to do that on like day 3 of living here. But
I apologize to any Scottish people. That was not by intent to be disrespectful.
Yeah, I guess with Tutu, what you do always have is that big playability, just because of the style of player that he is. I mean, what was it last week? 5 or 6 receptions for 93 targets. Everyone else is kind of seeing 2, 3, 4 targets. He is going to be that big play receiver, so I don't really mind it as a flex option. I think that with Tutu that there is a really kind of wide range of scores, that he is wide range of outcomes there. I think that is the only issue, but I don't mind him this week.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel the same. I don't love any of the options. I really thought it would be DeMarcus Robinson, just that was consistent every week and solid, and you knew you weren't getting a ceiling, but you were going to have a stable floor. And I don't know if that's even the case right now. On the other side of the ball, though, Jorge, what you have seen is that DJ Moore, again, even bad quarterback play, which is what we've seen out of Caleb Williams, really 2 of the 3 weeks. I won't say last week was good quarterback play. It was voluminous quarterback play, if that's a good adjective to describe that. But he's the wide receiver 40 and half-point PPR. I know that's not a glowing endorsement, but he's 7th in target, or 7th in receptions, 4th in targets on the season. So he's getting the volume. Touchdowns will come. I'm not worried about DJ Moore. But with Keenan Allen back, what does that take? Where do your thoughts go on Rome Odunze? Is he still just that, that deep threat, which really could pay off against this secondary? Don't get me wrong. But is he more, you're not 100% on board to start him in as a wide receiver 3 or maybe deep flex?
So let me work backwards with the Dunze. Again, going back to Drew Scott on Fourth and Frames with you guys on Wednesday, he said it best: you can't put the Ferrari back in the garage after you've already taken it out. And I think we've seen the connection with him and Odunze, the targets going to Odunze. I will say, while you have while DJ Moore is the wide receiver 40 on the season in half PPR, in PPR, the past 2 weeks, he is the wide receiver. Sorry, this one. He in terms of targets, he is one of the top wide receivers, top 10 wide receivers in targets with 20 targets. Last week was very painful to watch I'm not going to lie. Just all the missed opportunities, but he still is back-to-back weeks of 10 targets, double-digit PPR fantasy points. Like you've been saying off air, like this dude just needs to get into the end zone, and that's just not happening so far.
Well, time will come. DJ Moore's he's that guy. He's going to be disappointing because just the play around him hasn't always been. I mean, last year we saw it with Fields. Once he started going, it was a glorious thing. So, Keith, we talked a little bit ago. The Cole Kmet situation, more of a one-hit wonder potentially, is kind of what our impressions are, that he has all these weapons back. But let's say you're a Sam Laporta manager, like Charlene is, coming up on Monday night there was more concern yesterday about him playing than there is, I think, today. But knowing that you don't know, if you have Kmet, would you start Kmet over Laporta, not knowing the future?
I think Komet is a tight end one the rest of the way. If you just look at it, they tried the Lewis deal. I get it. They paid him a lot of money. If you look at Komet snaps the last 2 weeks, I think they realized we need to have Cole Komet on the field to help our young QB. I understand that Keenan Allen missed both of those games, but I just think that he gives him another, weapon that he can get rid of the ball quickly too. And the main thing is just tight end is such a wasteland. I mean, if you look at how bad the tight end position has been from fantasy perspective, I want to be sure to, say that. None of these guys are like bad players, but I just think that he's going to get enough target. This offense is going to be throwing a lot. They have a really bad offensive line, which means they got to get rid of the ball quickly. And if you look, Cole Kmet is like the perfect kind of tight end for, the kind of issues that the Bears offense have. Very similar to Justin Fields, who would obviously, hook up with Cole Kmet a lot last year. You're not expecting a ton, but I think if you look again at the landscape, Eric Hall in PPR leagues with 7.2 and 6.2 points the last 2 weeks was 15th and 20th among tight ends. I think Kmet is a top 12 guy the rest of the ways. I think he's going to get volume, and I think that his snap and route participation last week is more in line what you're going to see the rest of the way.
That's a tricky one for sure, because I think many have been waiting for the Cole Kmet train to kind of take off, and having last week could either be the absolute best thing or the absolute worst thing. And I know that sounds like I'm just taking both sides of the stance, which is easy to do, but it was a glimmer of what we could see. Like you said, week 2, sure, he had 5 targets, which was fine. And if you get 5 targets every week out of your tight end in this landscape, that is a tight end one. But the lack of Keenan Allen, Jonathan mentioned it earlier, and I think that is a good point. Just as much as I thought there's a good opportunity that Kmet will be his safety valve for the rookie quarterbacks, Keenan Allen poses that same type of potential with his ability to get open, short to intermediate. But that heel injury that he's had is not something that I think is just going to be gone. I think we might see that back and forth. So Cole Kmet, rest of season, not knowing Keenan Allen's availability for the rest of the season, definitely inflates his potential upside for, ownership status. So we're right there. Let's do the next underdog pick for this game, right? Before we do the IDP side, we're going to go higher or lower here on the mentioned quarterback for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. 220.5 passing yards for Caleb Williams. Higher or lower against this Los Angeles Rams defense that, well, should we say porous? I think is a fair way to describe this passing attack or passing defense.
Yeah, I'd say so. They're 6th in the league in passing yards allowed. In terms of touchdowns, they're one of the tops in the league allowed. You look at fantasy points. Yeah, so based off of yardage, absolutely, this is going to be a fun game for Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams can't go off against the Rams, then Chicago sports media tomorrow is going to be super positive.
So you're taking the higher there, Jonathan. Higher or lower?
Yeah, I'm taking the higher as well. They've Rams have allowed, I think it's around 250 yards, passing yards a game. So give me the over.
Keith, clean sweep.
Oh yeah, QB's completing 72% of their passes versus this team at almost 10 yards per attempt. That is the highest in the NFL. I love Caleb Williams in MME events this week on DraftKings. I think you can, whether it's pairing him with Allen or, Dunze. I mean, there's a ton of options. You put him, Roshan. I do like the Bears offense a lot today. I think the Rams last week was a one deal, surprise win deal. And I expect us to be talking very highly about Caleb Williams come Monday. Overreacting again, like we did the first 2 weeks when he played awful.
Exactly. Overreaction Monday is always one of my favorite days of the week, as is Sunday, because the 4 of us get a chat, and now it'll be the 5 of us get a chat as Dave Ibrahim gives us a visit. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
You Dev.
Just talking a little football, on Sunday morning. But hey, since you're here, I got a question for you.
It's cold here in California, man. It's 58 degrees. I had to put my jumper on. Oh, sorry, sweater on. Jonathan knows what I'm talking about. Jumper.
Yeah, I know. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do the calculations to work out what 58 is.
Yeah, dude. It's been so long. I've been in the States. I've forgotten what Celsius anymore. But anyway.
It's probably like, what is that? Like 20?
It's 14, which
14.
which is currently 13 in Scotland. So I'm in Edinburgh. So
It's brutal.
Scotland being the same temperature as California is sounds pretty good to me.
That is kind of wild. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. You just came at the right time, and I didn't. Now we're talking Celsius conversion. It's
And
68
jumpers
here.
and sweaters. The name sweater doesn't make sense, right? Come on, you're not sweating in it, yeah? So where's the name?
Wear it in summer. Then you'll be sweating.
Seriously, where does the name come from, right? Jumper comes from a woolly jumper, right?
I call it a hoodie, is what I call it. I mean, because I don't have anything
no
like
hood.
that. It doesn't have mine always has a hood. I'm not going to wear something like that without a hood.
But what about like this? What would you call this? This is sweater, yeah?
Sweatshirt.
Sweatshirt.
No, I would call that a sweater. Yeah, I guess.
We should find out the origin.
I think a sweater's having more knitting pattern type woven. But my question is, why do you say it makes sense? Because they call it a jumper? Because of what you said,
woolly
a woolly
jumper.
The hell does that mean?
Cheap jump.
Oh, so that does make sense, actually. Son of a bitch.
There you go.
Okay.
So the word sweater comes from the word sweat because the earliest sweaters were worn by rowers to make them sweat and lose weight.
Huh.
There you go.
Well,
There you are.
More confusion. Okay, interesting.
Damn. All right.
So Ryan, I know that wasn't your question here at the bottom, or maybe it was. We haven't got to it yet. He wants to know James Conner or Aaron Jones. He's leaning towards Conner because he's feeling Jones scores today at his former home, and it is standard league. Everybody, I think I go back and forth with this same exact scenario on a couple different teams as well. Ones that I wasn't happy with having Aaron Jones, so I'm thrilled having him now. But Dave will let you take the first jump at this one. See,
I'm taking Aaron Jones. I mean, I want to go. I want to go. Want to go Aaron Jones. I mean, I like the game script being in the Vikings' favor. To be honest, Darnold, funnily enough, is sorry. Internet's bad. Darnold's playing incredible. So I think he's going to get the touches. So the opportunity is definitely.
I do too. I mean, and Dave was, it's a little bit.
I may have some connection issues, guys.
That's okay, buddy. We'll jump back in whenever you get that worked out. Well, anybody on the Conner side?
I think you can make the case for it. Both Washington and Arizona are pretty comparable in yards allowed per game. So, again, this is one of those situations where you look at, the over under here, 43 points, 43 and a half, excuse me. I think you go. I think you go Connor. But I can
Okay, Keith?
understand the rationale for Jones.
Yeah, I think I would go Connor as well. Yeah, higher over under. I'm quite excited about that game. Yeah, so I think I'm going Connor as well. Although I do think Aaron Jones scores because it's
We said that.
inevitable.
I mean, we said this is a standard league, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's Aaron Jones. Connor's averaging 4 yards per carry this season. Aaron Jones is averaging 5.6. The Packers' run defense is not good. Like, I know that they stymied somebody that I told you all last week to play, Tony Pollard. Sorry about that. But I just think if you look at what Aaron Jones not only did the first 3 weeks of this season, but remember what he did for the Packers the last 5 games of last season. He has now 8 straight games of rushing for 5.5 yards or more per carry, and has had over 100 total yards. He's found the end zone, I believe, in 6 of his last 8 games. And you're telling me that dude ain't going to want to find the end zone so he can jump into that crowd at Lambeau? Like, I think that Aaron Jones is going to have a monster game. I think that's going to be a slugfest. That's good for a running back. Like, I agree, there's going to be more points in the Washington Arizona game, but I think Aaron Jones is going to get a lot more carries than James Conner is in the Minnesota Green Bay game, because I think that Minnesota is going to want to not make Darnold too much. I don't think Green Bay is going to want to put too much on Jordan Love's shoulders with how much Minnesota blitzes. I just think that Aaron Jones is a smash play. He's my favorite play on DraftKings across all formats at 6,400, and I would have him like as my probably 4th or 5th running back this week.
There we go. Jorge, jump back to the LA Chicago game on the IDP side of things on the Rams. Have you bought into Troy Reader as just volume play, or is it still, gross? You can say gross. You ain't hurt nobody's feelings.
It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. But he is playing the majority of snaps. Tackle efficiency was 13, which is blah, but it's not horrible. At least it's not sub 10. The players I actually care more about here for the Rams, honestly, Jared Verse is becoming a stud before our very eyes here for the Rams. I believe he's 12th in points per game for defensive lineman, Fantasy Pro scoring. But the two defensive backs here, Quentin Lake and Cameron Curl, both are super fantasy viable. And I would start them as my DB2, either of them, heading into this week's matchup. On the flip side, this is where it gets interesting. No DeForest Buckner. I think Kwity Paye was injured late in the week. I don't know, or he was injured during the game rather last week. I don't know his availability. But we did see Leatu Latu finally get his first sack. I think that, if Kwity Paye is all injured. What's up?
Which game you on? We're talking about the Bears.
Oh.
The
Sorry. Well, I was going on a nice, good tangent there, wasn't I?
I know. We can save that for when Indy's up in about half an hour. Just copy and paste it.
Thank you. Sorry. Bears, TJ Edwards, Montez Sweat finally got going last week versus the Colts. There we go. That's where the connection was. Jaquan Brisker. On the flip side, I think Isaiah McDuffie's still a good play. Quay Walker, Xavier McKinney, Sean Gary. So,
okay. I think you might be looking at a different week schedule there, Jorge, but that's okay. Well, those are plays too. It's the Rams at the Bears. But
damn,
we're going to get to Green Bay in about 2 seconds. So here we go. This is compelling. I'm sure if you're listening, you are laughing right now because normally a good host would just cover over that and just ignore it and not bring it up. But Jorge's a brother. And so that's what we do. I'm going to make fun. And I'm going to
no kid gloves in the Fantasy and Frames family. Okay. Like we treat each other like brothers. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Let's go. Throw shampoo.
Exactly. And that's what people come for. They come for that. And, I mean, they come for learning about sweaters, and it's and beating each other up. So Minnesota Green Bay. Here's you guys' chance to beat up on Jonathan, because it's going to be we should have waited for Jordan Love one more week. He wasn't ready. That's the problem. Or Jordan Love is the savior. Jonathan, it's a 2.5-point home favorite for the Packers. What is this game going to look like at the end? What's the score going to be? Prediction time.
23-20 Packers.
Okay. Which is exactly what the spread and the over. I mean, that's
Oh, is it actually?
pretty
Yeah, it
well
pretty much
done
is.
there. That's exactly right. Damn near.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if there's any gambling companies that want to give me a job, here I am.
exactly. I can read the point totals.
And then if you do
actually,
get a job, hook the rest of us up, okay, Jonathan? So
yeah.
No, my campaign is to try and get Underdog to the UK because it's still not licensed here yet. So that's my campaign at the moment.
We'll work on that. We will get that for sure. Ivan Pace is out this week. Jorge, that kills me, of course, but he wasn't playing enough snaps anyway. Jordan Love, we've talked about. Jair Alexander didn't practice on Friday. Jonathan, any updates on Jair so far?
I believe he's going to play, but let me just double check before I say anything incorrect.
No worries. Yeah. Practice reports don't show anything more besides, for me at least, from what I see. More so than
can we talk just for a second more about the Jordan Love thing? Because I do understand it, because technically if Green Bay loses this game, right, they would be, what, 2.5 games technically behind, because they would have the loss head-to-head. They would be 2-2. Vikings would be 4-0. I get that. I also know Love is very good versus the blitz for his career. If you look, like that's something he excels at. However, just watching what Brian Flores is doing right now with this Vikings D, I think it's extremely risky to throw your franchise. Like, if that dude's healthy, I think y'all have a legit chance to win the championship this year out here, when it's worst case, you're 2-2 through 4 games, and you would have already got 2 wins with Malik Willis. So you would have gone, say, 2-1 at worst.
Yeah.
With Willis playing 3 games. Why not wait 1 more week and maybe not bring him back against somebody who's going to blitz on like 100% of the plays?
Yeah, because I think if you'd said to Packers fans right at the end of that Eagles game, you're going to be 2-2 after the Vikings game, they would have bitten your hand off. They were, because we were talking about this before with Malik Willis. He's been so much better than people think. His time to throw has been much better. It was such an issue when you saw him for the Titans, just hanging onto the ball. I would really worry about him going against this Brian Flores defense. And as you said, Keith, I think that is the way that Jordan Love handles a blitz. You saw it in the Cowboys game in the playoffs, how well he did, with that kind of creation mode that he goes into. So I think that's probably what they're thinking, that if he is ready almost to play, then you've just got to, you're paying him that much money to go and win games like this.
Go for it, basically. Yeah.
I mean, the interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
By
the way, I did think, just saw that Jair Alexander is not supposed to play today. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Justin Jefferson, because obviously in the Jair has kind of followed in the last couple of games. He's had a lot of kind of bracket coverage with that obviously he doesn't talk about in press conferences. He's had a lot of safety help with that, but it will be interesting to see how they deal with that today. I think it means that Aaron Jones has a big game, because I think they'll play a lot of. The Packers don't play a lot of too high as much as other teams, but I think they will today, and kind of bracket coverage Jefferson, and it'll just mean that there's a lot of room for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and that's pretty much about the only. With Minnesota, and we've said this, Sam Darnold, comeback player of the year. He's QB4 on the season. I don't know if the comfort levels there starting him in a 1 quarterback format quite yet for me, but maybe I'm wrong. I hate to say it, 3 weeks in, you're the QB4, Dave. If you're staring at Sam Darnold, or you have an option like, well, let's do the fun one. You have Sam Darnold or Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is obviously performed and hasn't been the most impressive. But is there any scenario where you're starting Sam Darnold over someone like that?
Definitely not Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes' ceiling is through the roof, so he's
Right.
not someone that I'm considering Sam Darnold. But there is a lot of QBs, I got to be honest, that I would strongly consider. Jalen Hurts, I would put Sam Darnold right now over Jalen Hurts. Obviously, like Justin Herbert, that's a given. There's a bunch of guys that I'd put him over. So I'd say there's probably only 5 or 6 QBs that you would consider, safely starting over Sam Darnold. But hey, he's playing efficient, throwing for about 300 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's all you can ask for your QB1, right?
I mean, realistically, it is. Just you wonder when the other shoe's going to drop, as they say. But we know Justin Jefferson, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, they're playing. Jordan Addison's first game back. Jorge, if he's on your bench right now, you put him in any lineups, deep flex play, or you want to give him one more week? We kind of talked about him earlier.
No, I need to see something before I can confidently put him in there. I feel more confident putting Naylor in there, even though he's not. His snaps are going to take a hit there from Jordan Addison. At least I know there's a chemistry between him and Sam Darnold.
Yep, gotcha. Let's get to a couple questions real quick. They've been waiting patiently. Good morning, Za. He wants to know Superflex Dynasty full point PPR. Caleb Williams, Kirk Cousins. Keith, this sounds like a question perfect for you. Caleb Williams, one of your starts of the week, especially in MMEs, versus Kirk Cousins, the start in your heart every week.
Yeah, I think I'd have to lean Caleb Williams. I think the Falcons Saints games usually turned out being slugfests, real battles. And again, this Rams defense is awful. And until the Bears prove that they can actually run the ball, I do have high hopes for Roshan Johnson. They're only going to be able to move it consistently throwing it. So that's good for Caleb Williams with Allen coming back. I think that he's a much safer play. And I love Kirk and the Falcons. I hope, go bananas. But the issues with the offensive line is really the real tiebreaker because they're both going to be behind not so great offensive lines this week. And I think Caleb's going to throw more for sure.
Jorge, go to Zaz. One more follow-up question. Tyreek Hill, Amari Cooper, Rashid Shaheed. Do you get cute and not start Tyreek Hill?
Come on.
It's a question we're seeing more and more.
After last week, I'm kind of leaning towards Cooper, to be honest with you. You look at Deshaun Watson's first read percentage. It's high. It's one of the top in all the quarterbacks of all the NFL, and Amari Cooper's is dominating the first read percentage for the Cleveland Browns. It's not pretty, but I still think they found out what was missing the first week for Amari Cooper, and I think that trend continues. Hopefully,
Hill just gets arrested on the way to the game today. That seemed to hype him up. He went for like $150 that game, right? He can just get arrested every game,
Pull him over. Yeah. Pull him over.
I will say I don't know exactly what to think of Snoop being at quarterback today. It's one of those things that we want to say it can't get worse than Skylar Thompson, and it's going to be beneficial to Tyreek Hill because Huntley will come in, will look Hill's direction, will force feed him every target possible, and Tyreek will do what he does best, which is take full advantage of every target he can get. The other side of my brain says, are you kidding me? It's Snoop Huntley. He hasn't been relevant in 3 years as far as having a game where he's averaged over 150 yards passing in a game, and you're thinking he's going to support Tyreek Hill in a matchup that
but there's some players who would just.
Willis. Yeah, I was going to say, what were we saying about Malik Willis 2 weeks ago? And he is now one of the best play callers in football. I would 4 weeks in, there's no way I can sit Tyreek Hill. I
can't either.
You could live so much better with Tyreek Hill having a bad game and one of those guys going off. Then could you imagine if you start Cooper or Shaheed over Tyreek Hill and he has a 30-point outing, which he can do on 4 screens, for God's sake? He's Tyreek Hill.
I hear what you're saying.
I think that's what you're.
That's really the point, man. I mean,
go.
No, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
there's some players like I don't know
Holy
if you
shit.
guys remember,
Mute.
like
Yep,
Jesus.
we're
Okay,
moving
I'll go.
on.
I'll go.
Well, we're not. We're
Like
moving on.
DeAndre. I
Jordan
don't know if
Schultz.
you guys remember DeAndre Hopkins back in what, like mid 2010s, right? There was a stage where he was doing it with T.J. Yates, Brandon Weeden, Ryan Mallett. Who's the old Patriots quarterback who's no longer there? Real bad quarterback. But anyway,
Tom
I'm just
Brady?
saying this certain place. No, not Tom Brady. The backup guy. You know who I'm talking about.
He was a
Anyway, so
backup.
there's some place who can just do it, right? That's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, I'm not worried about him. I mean, people were worried about Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold. I mean, look at that argument now. So Tyreek Hill is just the quality player that he will get it done with no matter what. So I've no doubt whatsoever you play Tyreek Hill. You know, that's a given. Anyway, continue.
Gotcha. Scampers, thank you. I saw that earlier. Mixon won't play. Cam Akers again should see volume. It's Cam Akers. I would temper your ceiling play for him, but I love the offense, love the opportunity. Not concerned with Daria Gumbawale or anybody else that might get touches.
Yeah, the numbers were great for
Bears.
him. He just didn't get they got in a horrible game script. I mean, I think if you're looking for like in DFS value, back, Akers is the guy, because I think we all agree it's going to be another bad time for the Jags. Texans will be up 90% of the snaps. I think it was like 80% of the rush attempts. So,
Yep. Jorge, here's an IDP question from Charlene. Charlene has 3 of these guys that she needs to start. I'm guessing it's all just 3 kind of like flex or maybe not. But the reason I ask it like that is because in my linebacker position, if that's what this is for, since most of them are linebackers, I'm not the biggest fan of starting Judon or Harold Landry as a linebacker over Azeez Al-Shaair, Dorian Williams, Alex Anzalone, or Shaq Thompson. Assuming it's a linebacker position, Jorge.
Assuming it's linebackers, it's Shaair, Anzalone, and Shaq Thompson. Dorian Williams, he got a majority of snaps, but his efficiency wasn't as high as what was his name, Spector last week.
Balin Spector, yep.
Yeah, Spector. So give me Al-Shaair, Anzalone, and Shaq Thompson.
Well, she just answered in response, and so it's 1 DL and 2 flex. So pick one of those between Matthew Judon and Landry as a defensive line play, and then narrow it down. I know who it is. All right, you take Judon. Pick the 2 linebackers then as a flex. Which 2 you want?
Give me Al-Shaair and Anzalone.
Okay. Anzalone did have a comeback from the concussion that he had suffered. He's got full practices this whole week, or at least on Thursday, and he should be good to go. No concerns with that whatsoever. Now, Preston has a very good question, because I worry the same thing. Actually, take it, but 1 second. Jonathan has a question before. Needs to start 2. Dave, JSN, Jacoby Myers, J.K. Dobbins, Roshan, full point PPR, and 1 point for first downs.
Jacoby Myers and J.K. Dobbins. The game runs through J.K. Dobbins. He's proven that he's a workhorse running back. One of the few that we see in the NFL. I like the I guess certainty with Dobbins there. Jacoby Myers has proven he can do it without Devontae Adams. Even with the Patriots back in 2020 with Cam Newton, he proved that he could be a 1. He was going for about 100 yards and a touchdown on average for that 4 or 5 game streak. I'm confident in Myers. JSN, I mean, he's fighting against DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, right? So I just don't I believe in the talent of JSN, but he's the number 2/3 receiver on that team. Myers is the number 1. Dobbins is a workhorse running back. Go with a safe option.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement there. I will say I don't love J.K. Dobbins this week as far as where he is overall. I like him in this scenario that we have.
Take your KC love out of it. Just take the KC love out.
It is. My KC love is completely gone. But you know who else is completely gone? Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, Justin Herbert's lower body, and Derwin James on the defensive side, which means I 100% think the game script will be shut down J.K. Dobbins, load the box, and prevent that. But given the scenario here, I like him still because I think 20 touches is a likely like potential here. So anybody have any
Is
varying
it
thoughts?
just Justin Herbert's top buddy playing like a
It's
magician trick?
only it is. It's which is I mean, it's pretty
Not better than
solid.
most.
I thought they would bench him for sure. I'm shocked that he's playing, to be honest, especially with a bye week next week. But yeah, don't be surprised if they pull Justin Herbert early.
Yeah, we will see Tyler Heineke. I do want to talk to you guys a little bit at some point whenever we have a spare minute about some of these options of quarterbacks that could see some action today if poor play continues. But I want to get to Preston's question real quick here because he wants to know, and this is one of the late games. We might not have much time to discuss this, but Kenneth Walker coming back first game. This Lions run defense has been spectacular. Are you comfortable, Jorge, waiting, starting Kenneth Walker? I know you don't know your options here as far as what the other plays may be, but what's your comfort level on a scale of 1 to 5?
6. I just think Charbonnet is going to still be incorporated into this offense. This oblique injury is something that's been nagging Walker since his rookie year to now. I don't think he gets in a full majority snap situation here.
Okay. Threw me off guard because I only gave you a 1 to 5 option and you gave me 6. So I thought you were super high on them. But
Yeah,
6 out of 10 is better than. Let's go 1 to 3,013.
I took that same thing. I thought you were just super confident in him. That's why it didn't make sense to me.
No, I heard 1 to 10, and currently listening this morning is not on my agenda. So
It's like, geez, well, hey, you're lying to us, telling us you love him, and then you flip flop straight away.
He's probably playing Preston in one of our Fantasy and Frames leagues, and I gotta tell you, sneaky. Here, Charlene's probably playing one of us and wants to know, hey, similar situation, Raheem Mostert, first game. Me personally, I'm not going to start Mostert. I liked what limited touches could mean for the man, but I don't know. I hate that first week back, especially considering some of the other flex-worthy options that we've seen over the few weeks fill in. Anybody love Mostert this week? Nope.
No.
Then we can move forward. Still talking about the Green Bay Minnesota game. The underdog pick of this game is Aaron Jones. One of my avoids in the season to begin. Also one of my biggest mistakes so far. His underdog point total is 13.15 fantasy points. Higher or lower, guys? And we'll go around. Jorge, I'm going to start with you.
higher.
Okay. Keith?
Higher.
Jonathan?
Yeah, 3 out of 3. Higher.
And Nate says higher as well. Looks like that is going to be higher. I will tweet out all of our underdog picks for anybody that wants to jump on with us and be millionaires together. We can all sail away and spend our cash. Jorge, now you can talk about some Green Bay IDP. You said Rashawn Gary, who, by the way,
Actually,
got a lot of flat.
Yeah, so he's actually been operative. So after looking, thank you very much for giving me some time here. Green Bay, it's the Isaiah McDuffie show at the linebacker position. Quay Walker has done absolutely jack. You know what? And on the flip side, Xavier McKinney. So those would be the only ones I'd be super confident on. Rashawn Gary is a name, and you probably in your IDP leagues did draft him to be one of your top DLs. And you have to ask yourself at which point, does name value mean nothing? So I would not be confident having him be one of my defensive linemen. So those two players for Green Bay. On the flip side, Van Ginkel, Jonathan Gennard, Blake Cashman does wear the dot there for Minnesota at the linebacking position, but he's not really too efficient in terms of tackles. So I'd be fading him and Josh Metellus at the defensive back position.
All right. We're going to Jacksonville to Houston Texans. Houston 6-point home favorites, 44.5 point total. Evan Ingram is out. Foyce Luakan is on the IR. Devin Lloyd did not practice on Thursday. Questionable tag, probably will play from last I saw. Tank Dell is out. Damian Pierce is out. Joe Mixon is out. So CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Travis Etienne, those are my must plays, of course, in this matchup. And then after finishes last week and the week before, 2 weeks ago, weeks 1 and weeks 2, Christian Kirk was the wide receiver 74, the wide receiver 110. Jacksonville finally gave Christian Kirk the opportunities, and he put up a top 25 week. He was the wide receiver 24. He had a 32% first read share last week. Jonathan, was this the Jags kind of wising up, realizing what they had in them, or simply a product of this blowout to Buffalo, which honestly could be the same case this week too?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both. Obviously, it was a negative game script, so I think that obviously does help. As you said, if that happens again today, would we really be that shocked? I mean, in terms of Kirk, I have a league where I have him after week 1. He's been benched ever since. I'm playing someone like Khalil Shakir over him. I think with this Jags offense, I'm still not confident with it. I don't really trust this coaching staff. I don't think they're going to be there, certainly beyond the end of this year. I do prefer someone like Brian Thomas, certainly longer term over this season, just because of his big play ability with Kirk. You do need that target share. You do need that really high target share for him to kind of realize any of the value. Whereas Brian Thomas has just much more upside on a weekly basis. So he's someone that I feel much more confident in over the rest of this season.
So Dave, with Mixon being out, Pierce is out, going back to the Cam Akers well, or is that well gonna, bring a dead body up from it and have to call?
I don't mind it. Look, hopefully he's at least he's not your RB1, but if he's your RB2, I can live with it. He's going to get the volume. And I mean, Houston have the potential to get a decent lead and just run the ball. If that happens, I think it's going to be the Cam Akers show. So, yeah, I'm good with it. I've got no problem with it. Am I over the moon? Probably not. But, yeah, I think you can probably expect 80 yards. And if they're close to the end zone, I mean, maybe he falls in. So, not expecting monster numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get 85 yards and a touchdown.
Gotcha. Jorge, Stephon Diggs, huge game, right? Let's do an underdog pick on the other side of the ball. We're going to do our first IDP underdog pick. And this is a tricky one because when you talk about sacks, you only get one choice. It's a half a sack, over or under Will Anderson Jr. Now, there's a little caveat to this. Jacksonville has allowed the 5th most sacks on the season, but they've only allowed a 17% or the 17th highest pressure rate. Is this going to be a product of just simply them pinning their ears back? Will Anderson, higher, lower than 0.5 sacks?
Higher.
Yeah, it's higher. I can ask the rest of you guys, but you trust in Jorge's IDP knowledge enough just to say, move on, Nate. Let's get to the next game because I want to talk about some Pittsburgh Steelers and Indianapolis Colts, right? But before we do that, Jorge, finish a couple players left on the IDP side. I keep forgetting because I don't have it in the show sheet for people listening. If you wonder why I keep forgetting IDP, it's because if I don't have it on the teleprompter, I don't read it. Go fuck yourself.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy. Exactly. So a lot more to choose from here on the Houston side of the ball. The aforementioned Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter at defensive line. Azeez Al-Shaair, linebacker. Jalen Petrie back in our good graces in defensive back for Jacksonville. No Foye Oluokun going to IR. That's huge because now this linebacking situation, although Devin Lloyd would be the name that you would consider, apparently there's too much of a rotation going on and the snaps just not have been going his way. Josh Hines Allen, you would think would be an automatic start. I don't think he is an automatic start. He had one good blow game for fantasy purposes. I don't think this is the week to start trusting in him again as being an all elite fantasy producer. Yeah, that's who I got.
There you go. All right. let's get to these. Let's go to Indianapolis, where Pittsburgh is a 2.5-point favorite on the road, 40-point total. Alex Highsmith is out. Jalen Warren's out. Kenny Moore is out. Kwity Paye is out. So obviously it has impact more from the defensive side of the ball, except for one, where Jalen Warren being out. Keith, Najee Harris, as well as it may not be the most effective per touch outcome, he's got to be in a cash game play, someone that you're probably pretty high on as far as but I don't know where ownership's going to be. So maybe you can fill us in a little bit about that as far as the cash game upside of Najee Harris or not so much.
I mean, he's the real value for sure because he's 5,500. You would have to assume that, I am worried about Cordell Patterson. This is Arthur Smith, but I do think he would get 75% of the rush attempts. I'm still leery about playing him just because I think this is the game that we see Fields run a little bit more. And I really like what the Steelers did last week from a passing perspective. The Colts run zone at one of the highest rates in the league. Justin Fields is better versus zone than he is versus man. And Calvin Austin is actually the guy in cash that I love this week at 3,300. It allows you to spend up at a lot of other positions. He's seeing a 20% target rate. Again, 3-game sample size, but a 20% target rate versus zone. That's basically the exact same as George Pickens. The splits versus man is like Pickens 36% and Austin 12%. And he's averaging 3 yards per route run so far this season versus zone. So I actually think it's Fields and the pass catching, whether it be Pickens or Austin, who are the safer plays. But if you're just looking for volume and you want to be unique, I definitely don't hate Najee Harris at 5,500.
Well, let's pivot from that because you mentioned name Cordell Patterson. So my underdog pick for this game, Cordell Patterson, over, under, higher, lower of 19.5 rushing yards. Keith, we'll start with you. You're a little concerned. How concerned are you with Cordell Patterson?
19.5 rushing yards.
I know. It's two runs, end of rounds. You never know.
I am actually going to take the over there. I think he does get at least 25% of the rush attempts. You would have to think with the Colts not having DeForest Buckner, the Steelers are going to try to run the ball at first and then probably play action and throw from there. So, I mean, Cordell, I know because he's old, people forget. He's a burner for a guy his size, 19.5 yards. And then obviously, I think if the Steelers get up big, which is a possibility, Harris was injured. I think he was wearing a cast at some point this week. So you could see Patterson kind of close the game out, or Harris could just end up re-injuring the arm during the game. And then Patterson ends up, say, getting 50-60% of the rush attempts in this one. So I actually think that's a pretty reasonable number on a team that we know is going to run the football.
And that Najee Harris in a sling was one of the reasons why I did pick the Cordell Patterson option in this one, because there is a likelihood that maybe if they do get up, like you said, they don't want to risk re-injury. And it's Arthur Smith. We know he loves Cordell Patterson. Patterson and him have, I don't get it. But Jonathan, are you higher or lower?
Yeah, I'm higher as well. For a lot of what Keith has said, but also the Colts, the first 2 weeks were so poor against the run. So yeah, I know, as Keith said, we know this is what the Steelers want to do. So yeah, I'm going higher as well.
All right. Well, that makes 3 of the 5, so that's consensus. So then we will just jump back into some of the other things. Jonathan Taylor is in this matchup for me probably the only absolute smash start. I think there's some other really good plays. We talked about Justin Fields being a good spot right here. We know George Pickens, as we've talked about, ready to start blowing up. Jorge, is Pickens one of your best buy lows in many of your home leagues? Because I think some of the the Twitter leagues where experts or whatever you want to call them are pretty high on this George Pickens buy low or don't sell. You make it offer.
Yeah, he is a buy low for the next hour and 20 minutes. After that, I don't think he's going to be a buy low candidate for you in your home leagues much longer.
Dave, what's your thought? Anthony Richardson. He is, for me, one of the most difficult sits out of all of them. I know that sounds like people are like, oh, wow, it's easy. He's been terrible, but the upside is tremendous. Like you talked earlier about Mahomes, the ceiling play is just there. But I mean, him and Fields are trending in opposite directions. Do you have the guts to bench Anthony Richardson?
No, and especially you mentioned the defensive holes that Steelers have right now. I don't. I'm more confident in Richardson picking them apart in the air. So I think Richardson is a great play this week. To be honest,
There we go.
I wouldn't have any doubt at all.
With that, I don't get excited about any of the Indy pass catchers, but that's a product of Richardson. If let's say we knew right now, you have the crystal ball in front of us, Anthony Richardson's going to throw for 215 yards, which I think would be a pretty good mark for him on the season. Keith, if you had to pick one of the pass catchers, tell us why. You just had to pick one. Who's it going to be?
Are you talking about just going to have the most receiving yards, the most fantasy points? Like, sorry,
fantasy points exclusive.
Okay. PPR Josh Downs. If it's just a standard league, I'd probably go without Pierce.
Okay. Jorge,
is it the worst receiving core in the league?
I don't think so. I just think it's.
I mean, it's between them and the Patriots, right? It's got to be.
Patriots.
Man, Richardson's just been so. I mean, when you have less than 50% completion rate and less than 50%, catchable targets to every wide receiver, basically, maybe outside of Downs early on, just because low sample. Right. It's hard to see value or upside or potential when everybody looks poor. But yeah, it's definitely not, it's not the Green Bay Packers or the Falcons or the Chiefs or the Commanders in terms of wide receiver rooms. I mean, it's very close to the Patriots, as bad as they are. That was a knock at everybody here. Oh, well, it wasn't. It was only a knock at you, Dave. I said the Commanders in that conversation. You clearly know I was joking at that point because garbage. Shall we progress to the IDP side of the ball, Jorge? Talk a little bit about TJ Watt and how bad Patrick Queen is?
Sure. So I want to give a shout out to Justin Taylor at JT Orange here. He does our IDP plays and fades this past month. One of the people that he is super high on with no Highsmith is Nick Herbig. Basically, he compared him to TJ Watt light, played 100% of the team's defensive snaps in the second half, had a 50% win rate, a 37.5% pressure rate, just to look like a man unleashed. So he's definitely somebody, if you're in a pinch at the defensive line position, you should look into. No quitty pay for the Indianapolis Colts. I still think Leatu Latu is going to benefit from that just because of the increase in snaps. EJ Speed, linebacker for the Colts. I think he is the true LB1 there for fantasy purposes. Zaire Franklin further down the list. Somebody who you're a big fan of, Nate, or where a couple of years ago, former Terrapin Nick Cross. You are. Don't hide.
I love Nick Cross.
Last year he was asked to play box safety for the first couple of seasons. Didn't really work out well. They brought in Julian Blackman to play box safety, aka you're in the box, you have a higher likelihood of getting bigger tackle numbers, which is what happened with Julian Blackman. Now they're moving Blackman back into the free safety position. Nick Cross is coming into the box safety. I want to say Nick Cross heading into last week was the leading tackler in the entire NFL, not just at the defensive back position. So definitely somebody you're playing there.
There we go. So get all of your IDP content over from JT over on Fantasy and Frames for sure.
Can I give a shout out real quick for
Holy
Keith?
Hell.
I know. I gotta give Keith some credit here. Folks, this guy researches like nobody in this business when it comes to DFS. Really a huge fan. If you head over to fantasyandframes.com, check out Keith's DFS playbook for week 4. Gives you cash play, MME play for every single game, breaks down why. Definitely go check out Keith's articles as well as JT's IDP article over at fantasyandframes.com.
Anything else? You good? All this giving your flowers. I swear.
Good for now. I'm good for now.
Well, you know what? As you have that sweet I guess shout outs. We're going to go to something a little sour. The Denver Broncos at the New York Jets, 39.5 point total. Blah. Jets 7-point home favorites, 7.5 point. CJ Mosley's out. Morgan Moses is out. I mean, it's Breece Hall for sure. We talked earlier about Garrett Wilson. It's all right. Would anybody actually sit Garrett Wilson in a 3 wide receiver league?
No.
Keith, you're not doing it, correct? You don't have that.
No, I don't like him, but I mean, you got to eat your vegetables sometimes and just do things you don't like. So I would definitely start him.
That's exactly right. So will Braylon Allen, speaking of vegetables, will he be Brussels sprouts, a surprisingly tasty treat that you didn't know because it sounds gross? Or will he be carrots, something that unless they're cooked, they're just not that great, and him getting cooking will be with them getting a lead and still getting him 35% of the touches. I just came up with those vegetable analogies off the top of my head.
What about when you shave the carrots and cheese together? That's pretty good.
What?
You shaved carrots and shaved cheese and mix them together. You never had
And
that?
do what with it? Put it
You
on
talking about
just
like
eat
a
it.
platter? You're talking about like a
Just
platter,
like
right?
put it in a bowl. Just get
Yeah.
a bloody bowl, right? And get some shaved
You
carrots.
use like a fork, or do you use your hands? Like I don't
Yeah,
understand.
use a fork. Yeah, just like you're having a salad, right? So you get some shaved carrot and shaved cheese and mix them together. You never had that?
Can't say that I have.
What?
Anybody
Maybe
in the
that's
chat
just-
ever had that? No.
Maybe it's an Australian
Australians,
thing.
man.
Might be an Australian thing.
Australians.
You never had that? It's a super common thing. You used to eat it all the time.
Where?
By themselves?
Have a
Yeah.
guess.
The most common in Perth, most of the
All right.
northeast corner of Perth, but only right there, the most common. And actually, just on the
Once you go to your
13th
fridge,
Street-
get a block of cheese, get some carrots. I want you to try it, okay? Instead of having hot wings today and whatever the hell you're going to have, you're having carrots and cheese, all right? Bring that to your football party today.
Gotcha.
You'll
So
be
is
the coolest
Braylon
guy on
Allen
the
going to
block.
be? Yeah. Will Braylon Allen be carrots and cheese and make you shit the bed, or will he be something delicious like not boneless wings? I shouldn't have said boneless wings because that's going to piss some people off. We'll say buffalo wings or
Meat nuggets. Yep, sorry.
saucy nut. You mean dino bites for you, Jorge?
Yeah, that's what boneless wings are. They're chicken nuggets or dino bites, exactly.
Yeah, I like chicken nuggets though. But seriously, Braylon Allen, guys, he's hinting at the flex worthy spot each week. I know a lot of people, myself included, it's hard to want to start a backup as far as, by definition, to Breece Hall in a flex spot, but he's earned that spot, hasn't he, Jorge?
I think he has, and given the fact that the linebacking situation for the Denver Broncos took a huge hit this week with Alex Singleton tearing his ACL and going on IR, I think that lends more credibility to having Braylon Allen be a potential flex option for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I just Googled it. Evidently, it is an Australian thing, so I was unaware. I thought that was an everyone thing. Evidently not.
I'm going to try it, Dave. I promise you. I'll try it.
What kind of cheese are we talking about? Some
Just like
weird cheese?
regular, whatever,
Cheese is
What
a
does
big
it have to
deal
be?
in America, though. Is it cheddar?
There's a
Swiss?
million.
Is it-
Just your
yeah.
cheddar, yeah. Just your cheddar.
Okay.
Just regular
I like it.
cheddar and a regular carrot, and you just grate them together.
Because I love cheese and apples. Like that's one of my favorite is to cut up pieces of cheese and cut up an apple and eat it at the same time. It's very delicious.
This is good
but
because it gives you the saltiness from the cheese and you get kind of the sweetness from the carrot.
I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
try it.
evidently it's an Australian thing. I was
Maybe you
unaware.
put it like a grilled cheese sandwich, but you have a grilled cheese sandwich with carrot.
No,
shavings.
this is just, it's called a carrot salad, evidently. It's carrot
Ooh.
salad. Just carrot and
Cleverly
cheese.
titled. That
Give it a try.
See, I don't
guys.
think I could. The cheddar and the carrot. I mean, I know maybe I'm being a little bit particular, but there's no dichotomy of color. It's all green. It's all orange. I want something.
You go
Maybe-
white cheddar, right?
Okay, there you go.
That's
There you
what's
go.
disgusting, Jonathan. When you have you been to the States? Cheese here is terrible. It's orange, bro.
Yeah, sorry
Orange.
guys. It's
It's so
yeah.
gross. I've
What
been
about
living here for like 12 years. Cheese is disgusting.
Can you go blue
Honestly.
cheese and carrots? Or is
Ugh,
that
gross. Pass.
That might be a
Next.
bit too
all
much.
you
Maybe like
ranchers-
some sharp, the sharp vintage cheese. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go blue cheese.
That the look I just gave is the same look I give when I have to think about having Alan Lazard in my lineup,
We're
knowing
really
that
off topic.
there's a chance for a blank. But I tell you what, the same look that Dave had talking about cheddar carrot salad is the same look that Aaron Rodgers has when he looks Alan Lazard's direction. It's the twinkle in his eye. It's the cheese in his gullet. But I think it's potential for a good week. Garrett Wilson probably getting the Patrick Surtain treatment. Keith, Alan Lazard, a good MME play, cash play, or just fantasy play in general?
I mean, I think all of the secondary Jets options are very interesting this week. Patrick Surtain is arguably the best cover corner in the league, and we know he's going to shadow Garrett Wilson. The Jets are throwing more with kind of each game as I think Aaron Rodgers gets more comfortable in this offense. So, yeah, I love Conklin this week. This is a defense that also has had some issues with tight ends. You look at like what Cade Otton did last week after one reception, the first two. He had 7 last week. So, like, I would kind of rank it probably Lazard and then Conklin as, you know, the pass catching options. And I do like them better than Garrett Wilson straight up for DFS, whether it's cash or MME, because I believe in Patrick Surtain and what he can do.
All right, Jonathan.
2 and 1 and 1 and 2 teams are really tough to work out, don't you think? Because you just don't know who they are. Like the Broncos after week 2, I thought maybe they're contenders. Then week 3, like no, they're imposters. It's really hard to tell who's good, who's bad. You know,
it is. It's the NFL's been the trickiest so far. Again, I think we say this every year through 4 weeks. Nobody has a clue. We all think somebody looks great on paper, and then before you know it, we're back to asking questions like this. Jonathan, is there anybody on Denver that you would start confidently?
Are we going to say preferably not? Confidently, no. I think Cortland Sutton is always going to be a little bit interesting just because of the target share. And he will have that kind of like fairly high ceiling. I think it was something like 8 targets again last week. So when Nix is kind of playing well, I think we'll see plenty of targets, but there's no one that I'm confident in.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to the IDP side of things, guys, let's do another underdog pick. But well, it's going to be IDP related because a matchup that the aforementioned Alex Singleton is out, leaves Cody Barton, a player who I think is just not really that good at football, but will be on the field a lot. His underdog point or tackle total is 6.5. That's solo and assisted. Jorge, higher or lower against this Jets team that should, by all definition, hold the ball for 61% of the time?
Higher.
Okay. Keith, you want to jump in on this too? Higher or lower?
You do not want defensive advice from me. I lean on Jorge and the rest of the IDP experts at Fantasy and Frames. So no, you do not want.
Dave, you want a piece of this?
I'll pass for now. I'll pass. Go on.
All right, Jonathan, this is the last thing you can tell us before you go. Cody Barton.
I will always lean on Jorge for any IDP advice.
Oh, there you go. So it sounds like the over is going to take. I lean the over too. Is the reason why I picked that. Hopefully we all are rich, and if we all win millions, I don't think you can win millions on it, but whatever. You win enough. We will head to Scotland to come visit you, Jonathan, and we will come eat all of the cheeses.
No, we're flying him over here with the winnings because I don't want him to deal with the weather or the food over there. From what I've heard. No offense, Jonathan.
Yeah, Scottish food. Yeah, I'm not from here, so you can.
Okay.
I'm just living here, so yeah, you can have a go as much as you want. I will leave you guys to Google what is in haggis. It is really nice. Don't Google what is in it.
I actually like it. I've had haggis before.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's really good.
You're right. Yeah, don't Google it. Just eat it.
Okay.
But you're Googling it right now, aren't you? I can see
Oh,
you guys looking.
God.
Hands are up. Jonathan,
I still tried though.
it is it's always a highlight of my week to have you, and I hope you, family, everybody's doing well. Good luck on your team with your teams today. Good luck for
Go Pack, go
the Packers.
Pack,
go Pack,
go.
go. Exactly.
Cheers. Thanks everyone. Take care.
You're welcome.
See you later.
That That was Jonathan Konowski. But we go from Scotland to back to New York, which very similar. 14 degrees Celsius, I believe, in both locations for people listening abroad. See that? I bring out
It's turned
Celsius.
into a weather channel right now.
It is. It's partly cloudy,
Reporting.
partly sunny, 50% chance of rain, 50% chance there's not. And you know what? That reminds me, actually. We should say, anybody down and affected by the hurricane. I'm sorry. I know our friend Josh Hudson had issues with flooding. They have a GoFundMe for him and anybody else affected. I'm sure affected probably don't have internet right now to watch us, but just know that you guys are in our hearts and in our thoughts. And we now head back to the Jets, where Jorge is going to tell us a little bit about why. Number one, we talked about Cody Barton, but what other IDP options on Denver you looking at in this matchup?
So Zach Allen, interior lineman for the Denver Broncos. I want to say he's in the top 25 in points per game the past 2 weeks. Definitely still ride the hot hand here. He had a pressure rate of 14.7% in week 2. Cody Barton, we talked about. Brandon Jones at safety is another person there for the Denver Broncos that you should feel comfortable starting. On the flip side, the Williams brothers, Quincy Williams, and then Quinnen Williams, and then Will McDonald are 3 strong starts. You look at Chuck Clark. He's in the top 15 in fantasy points scoring, fantasy pro scoring, that is, for IDP. Is it Jamin Sherwood or Jamin Sherwood?
Jamian, I think.
Jamie, well, completely off on all. Yeah, Jamian Sherwood. He played close to 100% of snaps with CJ Mosley out. He is a very deep desperation flex play at the linebacker position, which you probably are not dealing with right now because we haven't started bye weeks yet. But somebody to keep your bookmark on.
There you go. Let's go to, we're going to go to Tampa. Philadelphia comes into Tampa as 1.5 point favorites. It's a 42.5 point total. The injuries are galore. Lane Johnson was just ruled out earlier this morning. Devontae Smith is out. Antoine Winfield's out. Kalijah Cansey's out. AJ Brown is limited, I think. Has he been ruled out yet or not?
He's out.
He is out. Okay. I assume so. And then even like players like Bucky Irving was limited, but I think he's supposed to play. We know Jalen Hurts. Well, actually, Dave, you said earlier that you'd rather have Sam Darnold over Jalen Hurts.
Especially with no Smith and AJ Brown. I mean, come on, Jahan Dotson's their number one. It's not really giving me too much hope, right?
No, it doesn't. Actually, Goddard's probably there one, but you don't think the rushing upside is enough to
no?
Look,
I know it's an extreme example, but we saw with Ramondre Stevenson and the Patriots last week what happens when you don't have a good passing game and you're getting crushed, which is what I expect to happen today. They don't rush the ball and you just don't get the opportunity. So I just don't think the rushing opportunity is going to be there. I think they're going to be trailing and they're just going to be airing it out and probably getting picked off 3-4 times.
Okay. I will say Saquon, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Dallas Goedert definitely all have to be in our lineups. Guys,
you're not playing Saquon. It's a given, right? I mean,
no, all those guys.
I'm just saying, I'm tapering my expectations.
Just with no Kalijah Cansey. Vita Vea is back, but still limited at best. So I mean, the run defense for Tampa is a little less than their norm. But Saquon's my redraft. Like right now, the RB1 for sure.
But here's the thing, right? Like, so we saw this when Saquon first came in the league way back when, back in 18, I think it was, 17 maybe. Odell Beckham was still in his prime, and believe it or not, Sterling Shepard was good. Those two warranted a lot of attention, and it opened up holes for Saquon. Now, I mean, when they left, they just absolutely stopped the run with Saquon. I think we're going to see that today. I think they're just going to stack the box and, shut the door on him.
Well, regardless, here's the crazy thing. Even if I knew Saquon was going to have, a 99% chance to be an an RB like 35 or lower, on
Oh,
that
you're playing him.
1%, I'm still playing
Playing
him.
him.
Still
Absolutely.
playing him. But I don't know what to do with the Tampa Bay backfield completely. Keith, help a brother out. What do I do? I don't like Rashad White. I like Bucky Irving. I just don't know who if I had both, am I starting one or the other? Am I starting neither? Starting both? Help me. Help me.
I
Help
mean,
me.
if I had both of them, I would start Bucky Irving for sure. I think Rashad White was dealing with food poisoning, is
Yep.
what I read. Which I know they say he's already feeling a lot better as somebody who had food poisoning a few years ago. I call bullshit. If he just had it 2-3 days ago, I mean, it took me like a full week to recover from that. And I just think the Bucky Irving is the better back. They have been reluctant to allow him to kind of take over, just even if it's a 55-45 split, the lion's share of the back responsibilities. I think that changes this week. The Eagles have a very good front four, and I just think that Bucky Irvin's going to get more touches this week for sure. I don't really like playing either one of these guys if you have other options this week in general, because again, I think the real weakness of this Eagles defense is the secondary you can throw on them.
All right. It's Dave, your I would say impact is being shown. Mr. Scamper is going to try some habanero jack cheese and carrot salad. That actually doesn't sound too terrible.
Yeah, at least adding a little bit of spice to it. I'm okay with it. I can live with it.
There you go. And since he's going to do that, he wants to know your opinion. Would you start Cortland Sutton or Trey Tucker in a full point PPR?
It's Cortland Sutton. We've seen Bo Nix when he can fire on all cylinders. He's a good quarterback, and Sutton is a decent one. If he gets enough looks, he's good in the red zone. He's good on a go route. I'm more confident in Sutton than Trey Tucker, to be honest. So I just think Sutton gets the opportunity.
Keith, do you lean heavily one way or the other? Or are you in favor of saying Sutton in that situation?
No, I actually like Tucker in this situation. I think the Raiders are going to be throwing again a lot this week, and he was targeted a lot in their matchup. Well, I think the Jets-Broncos game is more of a rock fight, to where I do think the Raiders are going to be forced to throw, because if you've seen Zamir White, yes, you were right, Nate, run the ball, or Alexander Madison, they can't run the ball. So they're going to have to move it throwing. That's a lot of targets: Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers.
I hate the Cleveland secondary matchup against the Raiders. I think that I know the Jets isn't exactly a cakewalk either. I just hate leaning Sutton anymore because, man, it just never has a ceiling. It's always a blah floor, but I still feel like I trust Sutton to give me a point, which is such a terrible way to look at that analysis. But I could see Tucker being completely excluded from that. But Jorge, what do you think? Which side are you leaning? You break the tie.
Tucker.
There you go. All right. Charlene, here's this, guys. Would you start Jordan Love coming back over Matthew Stafford? Heath? Love or Stafford?
I mean, I guess you probably have to start Love. He's good against the blitz. If the Packers are playing him, they obviously feel confident in what he's doing. My concern would just be what happens if he re-injures it with the Vikings blitz. But I would start him over Stafford, all things being equal, and they both play the entire game.
I don't know. I'm picking Stafford for that reason, just because, same reason I'm not starting Justin Herbert, and I got him in a bunch of leagues, is that I don't think he's going to play the full game. I just don't know if Love is going to last. I'm not now. If he plays a full game, will he do better than Stafford? Probably. I just don't want to take that risk. There's nothing worse than starting a player and they're out after the first quarter. I'd rather have a full game of Stafford than hoping you can get a full game out of Love.
There you go. Jorge, here's one for you, buddy. It's a trade question from Za. He just got an offer. He gets a 2025 first and Xavier Worthy for Rashee Rice. Full PPR dynasty. I know which way I'm leaning, but tell me, are you taking the first and Worthy?
This wide receiver class, I know we say this every year, is going to be pretty freaking awesome. And I there's a bunch of Yeah, I would take the trade, even if it's a PPR. And I know Rice gets peppered with targets, but I am.
Let's bring up the elephant in the room. I mean, is Rice playing next year? Let's be honest. Probably not.
I didn't even take that into consideration, but that's a good point. Also, yeah, I'll take the trade. I'll take that he got an offer, so he's giving up Rice, right? He has Rashee Rice. Yeah, I would give him up for the pick, Worthy.
Yeah, I'll take that and Worthy because you're not seeing Rice until 2027, 26. Sorry, I mean, so I think Rice is out all of next year.
Mm.
There's no way they ignore that. That was Henry Ruggs-esque. I'm shocked he's even playing this year.
You can't compare those two. That is so egregiously different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
One,
but it was
one
still
resulted
pretty
in death, and the other
fair
resulted
enough.
in a bent fender. And but you're right. It is a terrible scenario. It's a bad look for the NFL.
He's getting at least 6 to 8 games. Bare minimum, he's out 6 to 8 games.
Yeah, I want to lean the Rashee side just because even if you get one, hell, you would have to get Neighbors or Marvin Harrison type player to produce what Rashee Rice is doing. Like let's say you knew you were getting Roma Dunze. Would you take Roma Dunze for Rashee Rice? The number, who many would say
no, just because in Chicago, you've still got Keenan Allen, and I'm not saying Keenan Allen's going to be the clear cut one, but you got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, right? So Dunze's fighting.
Now.
Here's the thing: Rashee Rice next year. Let's assume he's out 6 to 8 weeks. Worthy's the number one receiver there, so you're getting 2025 first pick and the number one receiver for the first half of next year. Absolutely, give me Worthy.
Okay. Good morning to you, Robert. And Angie joins us for an IDP question where she needs to sit one of these guys. Jorge, you get to sit somebody. Josh, Duncan Hines, Will McDonald, or Will Anderson?
Josh Allen Hines, I would sit.
There you go. There it is. Chris Battistel joining us this morning. Bonjour. He has a half-point PPR question. He gets to pick 2 of these. Oh, hey, speak of the devil. We literally just talked about this. And this is, oh, man. This, Dave, if your kids aren't old enough yet, but when they start getting, maybe it'll still be a phrase, the ick, as we've mentioned, is something that my daughter and their friends, they talk about with the boys. They give off the ick sometimes, and I'm getting a lot of ick off of this question here. And it's, you have to choose 2. Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, Tutu Atwell. Oh, man. Keith, give me one. Go ahead. No, Dave, if it's easy, you do it.
It's Irving Walker. It's I think Walker comes in straight away as the number one, and Irving is the better back. He's the more efficient back. He's the better dual threat back. And as you mentioned, you've got White, who supposedly has food poisoning. I think that's an excuse to let Irving have a go at being the one. I think they're going to try and see if Irving can handle a number one role. So I like Irving. I like Walker. Easy ones for me.
Keith, what I heard from that is Dave said it was a Tampa Bay coaching staff induced botulism case where
Absolutely.
they smart, savvy play.
Yeah.
Super savvy by Tampa. They said, here is this chicken and sour. Here's this carrot and cheese salad. No, the cheese has not been sitting out for 3 years, which I don't know if that hurts cheese or not, because then it just turns into blue cheese or whatever gross shit that is.
The best cheese. Yeah, exactly. The best cheese.
Gross.
So you know how they make blue cheese? They actually inject copper rods, and that's what makes it turn blue.
Really?
Yeah. They put copper rods into the cheese, and it somehow the copper, some chemical reaction.
Huh. I'd rather eat copper than blue cheese. But Keith, any difference in what do you agree with Dave on those 2?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's easy just because I do like Tutu Atwell this week versus the Bears because of the Rams situation, and Stafford proved last week he can get it done with just about anybody, it seems like. But I think
he's been getting it done since 2010, right?
He's so underrated.
He's
a Bulldog
consistent.
fan.
Yeah,
that's good. It's true.
Well, before we do the IDP side, As to our underdog pick for this matchup here. And this is maybe the aforementioned wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia. The former number 1 pick, Jahan Dotson, higher or lower than 27.5 receiving yards. Jorge?
Higher.
Keith?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't listen. What was the question?
Jahan Dotson, underdog pick, higher or lower than 27.5 receiving yards.
Oh, they better hope it's higher. So I'm going to say higher.
Dave?
It has to be higher, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think he's going for $150 and 2 touchdowns. I think he's
Luckily
getting
on underdog, you don't need that.
Fair enough.
To win money, all you got to do is just be above the number. I still want him in my fantasy lineup if I'm in, for instance, a 14-team 3-flex gross scenario where your options are that or Haggis. I'm choosing Jahan Dotson. Jorge, IDP side, no Antoine Winfield. Mentioned Lane Johnson being out. Does that increase your likelihood to maybe think Yaya Diaby isn't kind of in play or not?
So I look at this question right here, and I'm looking. Let me get the players in Tampa Bay that I know have been delivering, and therefore you should be going after Yaya Diaby. He had 7.5 sacks last year. We thought he was going to be a hot thing. It just hasn't materialized. Ironically, here I'm not going to talk about any linebackers for the Buccaneers because I think you could find better options elsewhere. It's really the defensive back situation. So Christian Isian, who's been taken over for Winfield, Jamel Dean at cornerback, who's getting peppered with targets, and those PUs are adding up. And then Jordan Whitehead, again, another, all these defensive backs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are all within the top 20 in Fantasy Pros points per game with IDP scoring there. On the flip side, for Philadelphia, the only person I feel comfortable with is Zach Baum. Everyone else, you just don't know.
All right. Let's jump to the one of the highest scoring potential games on the slate. Washington Commanders at the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's 3.5-point home favorites. It's a 49-point total. Austin Eckler's out. Trey McBride is out. We assume that many of us are going to go with Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, with somewhat of confidence, James Conner, Brian Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin starts entering into that conversation after last week. Greg Dortch is the one that Keith, is he just a decent DFS play, or is he actually a pretty decent spot start for you in flex scenarios?
Muted.
I'll figure this out eventually. I like Michael Wilson a lot better than Dortch this week, but I do think this is the week that Dortch should see an uptick in targets closer to what he saw in the first week, because I mean, you look at it, Washington's run defense has not been awful, and it's just so easy to throw on the secondary that I do think that without McBride, you're going to see just a lot of volume to all three of those receivers. I know a lot of people think Higgins is a great value on DFS, and he is. There's just other players I would like, because I think ultimately it's going to be a lot of Wilson, a lot of Harrison, and a lot of Dortch. But I don't know if I feel confident enough like saying Dortch should start in even 3 receiver or flex spots.
Gotcha. Yeah. We have a couple questions before we get you out of here, Keith. Let's get your opinion on some of these here. The first one from Angie wants to know, in a flex, I get it, Jorge, buddy. Pardon me. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
A little slow on that for everybody. She needs to flex Michael Pittman or J.K. Dobbins, full point PPR. Dave, earlier you we talked about J.K. Dobbins. Are you still leaning Dobbins over Pittman here in a full point PPR?
Dob it up. I love Dobbins. I think he goes for 100 and a touchdown at least.
Keith?
Oh man, I am sorry, my friend. Because it's PPR full point, I think I still have to go Pittman. I know it's been gross. I get that, but he's seen 20 targets over 3 games. You're gonna know he's going to have some opportunities. Hopefully he has more than the 11 receptions for 88 yards that he has through 3 games. But I do think that they're going to have to, figure out a way to get this offense going. I think Josh Downs is going to open up things a little bit more. So I would lean slightly Pittman, but I don't love either of these plays this week.
Jorge, you have to be the tiebreaker.
Nate, you mentioned all the injuries along the offensive line for the Chargers. So yeah, give me Pittman this week.
And I don't think it's too far separate. Now, if you believe the same that Dave does, which is the rushing upside and the touchdown, that's an easy smash for Dobbins, because I don't see Pittman capable of putting up 16 points if that hits. But crazy things have happened. The Chiefs have definitely been played extremely tough by the Chargers over the years. That's been a consistent scenario week in and week out, or year in and year out. All right, Dylan has a question. What's up, boys? It's up to you, man. He needs help. It's a full point PPR, all different leagues. He's to start one of these 2. Andrews are likely. Around real quick. Andrews are likely. Dave.
I'm going Andrews, but it's not by much. I could be convinced the other way. It's
maybe
it's not a clear cut. Yeah.
Keith, can you convince him that it's likely over Andrews, or is it Andrews over likely?
I mean, I like likely just because he's got way more upside, in my opinion, and neither one of them, unfortunately, are being targeted a lot in this offense. The Bills are a team that, if you look, tight ends have done very well against. And if I have to start one of those 2 guys, I'd rather take the upside of likely.
Jorge? Andrews likely. There you go. All right, now we're going to start 2. Akers, Waddle, Jennings. Jorge, give me one of those.
Akers.
Okay. Is anybody leaning? Is everybody sit? Well, I would probably sit Waddle. Does Keith, who would you sit out of those 3?
Until I saw that Debo and Kittle were going to play this week, I was all over Jennings. Right. But with them coming back, I do kind of lean probably playing Waddle. I don't know if Jennings is going to get a ton of targets with, all 3 of those guys playing. If you look at his numbers from the games before last week, I know it's disappointing because you probably picked up Jennings last week and we're very excited, but I would probably lean Waddle.
And Dave?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with Jennings last week, man, even the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then, right? Yeah, but it happens, man. Jennings, you're going to have some random ass player who goes for a couple 100 yards and a few touchdowns. Don't expect that again from Jennings. And defenses are smart. They're obviously going to watch tape and go, okay, guys, we need to look at Jennings and lock him up. So it's Akers. He's getting the opportunity, and Waddle is Waddle. So yeah, let's not get too cute with Jennings here.
So we're going to start 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 flex. The running backs, Jorge, we got David Montgomery, Cam Akers, Kenneth Walker. Start 2 of them. Who are you sitting?
This is a loaded question, man.
I'm sitting Kenneth Walker out of the 3.
Keith, are you sitting Monty Akers or Walker?
Probably Walker.
Okay, and Dave?
So it's just the running backs we're sitting, right?
That's right here. Yep. There's 3. He has to start 2 of them, so you only need to sit one of them. Monty Akers or Walker.
Yeah. Okay. Out of the 3 running backs, I'm sitting Monty.
Okay.
I like Walker. I like Akers.
Keith, safe to say you're starting Cole Kmet over Isaiah Likely?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And of the names up there, guys, who would be the 1 flex of the people that we've elected not to choose? Would it be Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Likely?
What about Michael Wilson?
Michael Wilson.
Or Michael Wilson. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Michael Wilson would be
right.
my choice.
Same.
There you go.
I don't know if I'm playing Michael Wilson, man. He kind of sounds like my CPA, right? Michael Wilson, man. See, like, his other friend, Greg Dortch. That's a cool name, man. I don't want this guy to do my tax returns. I know it's tax season. We got it coming up in a couple of weeks, man. But no, I'd rather take the red zone upside with Andrews or Likely, to be honest, than Michael Wilson.
Yeah. I don't know.
When it gets into the red area that Jackson looks for Andrews and Likely as well.
Yeah.
In that red area, he's looking for his big body targets.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
the biggest body
Andrews
on
one.
that team is Derrick Henry. That's the biggest body you need in the red zone. There
Fair
you go.
enough, but I mean,
Yeah.
look, if it's 5 yards or less, so they're going to Henry for sure. If they're first and or third and 8, it's going to Andrews or likely.
That I would love to say I agree because I think that many people with the draft capital of both of those and waiver pickups. But Keith, I'm sure you have to get running. Don't want to keep you any longer, buddy. Before you go, obviously, make sure everybody knows exactly where they can find the most, I think, valuable DFS article out there.
Well, I really appreciate that. Be sure to check out my article on Fantasy and Frames. You can either find it on Fantasy and Frames website, their Twitter page, or my Twitter page /X. I hate that. Each week, I take the entire DFS DraftKings main slate, give you both an MME and a cash gameplay for those that are just listening and don't know the difference. MME is multi-entry. You need to be different, unique. You want players that are low owned. Cash game, you're just really looking for the highest possible point total that you can because you're playing against people with only one other entry. It's either a single entry contest or a 50-50 where you just beat 50% of the field and you double your money. You can also be sure to check me out if you have time at 12 o'clock. Me and Chris Robin, aka Detroit Beastie, will be getting you set for the DFS slate by answering any questions and I go over my favorite cash game plays. Chris goes over his favorite multi-entry plays. And I just hope everybody has a awesome week 4. I know I need wins in several of my fantasy leagues desperately. So I'm also hoping that goes to me as well. But I always enjoy hanging with you guys. Thank you so much. And I appreciate y'all going easy on me over the heartbreaking Dogs loss last night. God bless you.
Yep. See you, buddy.
Take care,
There
guys.
it is.
Keith needs wins. You need wins. I need wins. Dave needs wins. Dylan needs wins. So one more from him is start one of these quarterbacks: Baker Mayfield, Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams, Jorge.
Mayfield.
Dave?
I think it's me. You know what? It depends what you need, right? If you've got a weak team and you need the upside, I don't mind going Richardson. I think Caleb Williams is a fraud, and I'm surprised he's drafted in so many leagues. So the big question is Mayfield or Richardson. I could be convinced to go Mayfield, but I think if I need upside, it's Richardson.
I would agree with you if you need the upside. I think Pittsburgh just scares me enough that Baker against Philly in that pass funnel defense that they've had, I think that I'll probably lean Mayfield just because I want, guaranteed points. And I feel like Mayfield's going to just, I think that QB1 potential is just solid, a little more solid than the others. And then he's going to sit one of these 3, Jacobs, Dobbins, Walker. I think we're all going to probably disagree on this because I think Dave, I'm sitting Dobbins, Jorge,
Dobbins himself.
and Dave, you're probably going to sit Walker.
I'm sitting Jacobs.
Oh, okay. Which again against that Minnesota defense, that's not a bad fade, but that's a tough one, Dylan. I just like I said, me for Dobbins just simply because that offense for the Chargers is so banged up right now, but he's definitely going to get his volume. Will has a trade question that he was offered Mike Evans in a 2025 early first top 3 pick for Puka in a dynasty PPR superflex. He is the back-to-back champ. Super solid. Nice job. And super solid at wide receiver. Not really a start set, except the trade will affect this week, of course. Can it go through already? That's interesting because most of mine, take a couple days, but he would need to have this in the next 1 hour and 27 minutes. So guys, keep it under an hour 27. Would you make that trade? Would you take Evans and a top 3 pick for Puka?
I'm taking it. Absolutely taking it. Look, I think Puka's a great wide receiver, obviously. I'm surprised he fell to the first round, man. I mean, I think that's way too overhyped. Because Cooper Kupp's still there. I know Cooper Kupp's injured now, don't get me wrong. Is he going to be an elite wide receiver? For sure. But if I can get an early 23, start building on my team, Evans is going to be around for at least a couple more years. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know, I understand Dynasty, you got to like build, don't get me wrong, but you got to win at some stage, right?
He's
know,
back-to-back champion,
yeah.
and he's got these other receivers. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Waddle, Brian Thomas,
So
Christian Watson. Yeah, you're more than good. You probably don't even need Evans. You probably could maybe get a running back in return, but Dynasty running backs, you know, the longevity of them. I think you're good. Will, I say take it. Dave says take it. Jorge, do you say take that or not?
I say take it. Yeah.
Good position to be in. Not a bad position to be in whatsoever.
I'm going to make a controversial statement. Hopefully our good friend Mike Bauer isn't listening. Dynasty in the middle of the season is not fun. Now, it's good in the off season because you can make trades and the draft makes the real draft kind of exciting. But in the middle of the season, man, like the waiver wires is just so depleted that there's really nothing much you can do, you know? And I find Dynasty rosters are a little bit more stacked than your regular redraft. So I just feel like I'm doing less on a Dynasty. All I'm doing is just starting and sitting people from my bench.
Which is why you tune into this show for your start sit questions. Sometimes we get trade proposal questions. Sometimes they come from Will, and other times they come from Ken. And Ken has one that he received Raheem Mostert for JSN. He has JSN. Ken, do not do that.
Do not do that. Yeah, agreed. Keep JSN.
Yep.
Yes.
We all agree.
There you go. Thankfully, an easy question that doesn't require much thought. Here's a question that does require thought, and it's our underdog pick of this game, Jorge and Dave. 1.5 receptions for Jeremy McNichols.
I'm lower. I think Brian Robinson handles full work duties.
Dave?
Receptions? Oh. I think it's lower. I do think it's lower.
Dang it. I like higher, but you guys said lower. So lower is the majority rules. We're going to go lower there. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shocked that people took lower as Jeremy McNichols, who's a nobody as far as I'm concerned in that offense, but it's, it was a fun question. I enjoyed that portion. So IDP side, Jorge, let's try to get through the rest of these games for everybody so we can do that. Washington.
Yep. So Washington, he is apparently playing today. He did not last week. I really like Cleveland Farrell, defensive lineman, 2 tackles, 2 sacks in back-to-back games, week 1 and 2. I think he gets back on the schneid this week, especially with the tackle numbers helping him. And then we get to the linebacking position. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu is starting to see more tackle opportunities versus rushing the passer, so you like to see that. Benjamin St. Juste is just getting lit up at the cornerback position, so the pass breakup opportunities are there, as well as the tackle opportunities. On the flip side, looking at the defensive lineman for the Cardinals, looking at linebacker production for the Cardinals, there's only one person I can confidently say you're starting, and that's Budda Baker. Everyone else, like you're talking about LB3s and 4s or DL3s and 4s, or even Jalen Thompson, a 3 or 4 down the pecking order there.
Yep. Right there with you, man. Now the biggest blowout, or at least the most lopsided point total on the week is, or spread, I guess, is New England at San Francisco. San Francisco, 10.5 point home favorites, 40.5 point total. Javon Hargrave is out. Everybody else is pretty much back. Debo's going to play. It looks like Kittle's going to play. Ayuk is wearing the right shorts today, so he's fine. He's not in the doghouse for that anymore. We're starting Jordan Mason. We're starting Kittle. We're starting Debo, question mark, to you, Jorge.
Yes. Yeah, if he's good to go, he's good.
I am too. What about Ramondre, though? After last week, I mean, we saw that it can get gross, but you think this is a nice little rebound week for Ramondre?
Yeah, that was 0.3 points was hard to swallow there, but I do think that they're going to need Ramondre a little bit more involved in this offense to keep the game one-sided in terms of time of possession. So yeah, give me Ramondre.
Little quick update as far as some inactives and actives today. Actives today include Jordan Love, Keenan Allen, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving. Some inactives are Jair Alexander and Joe Mixon, who we've already discussed. Any other potential inactives or actives that come out, we will keep you guys posted. The Juwan Jennings Enigma talk we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. It's hard to trust with all the options back. New England, I don't want to trust anybody. Is there anybody that you're, outside of Ramondre? I mean, Pop Douglas, right? No.
No, not one person. No.
Well, speaking of Pop Douglas, you don't have to start him, but you have to make a decision on Underdog Pick. He is at 31 and a half receiving yards.
Higher.
I'm taking higher as well. Don't love it, but again, it's 31 and a half just seems easy, which is exactly why they do it, because they know that we're suckers for it seems too good. It's got to be. And that's how they win all their money. But it is what it is. All right. Here's a game for me. The Chiefs travel to SoFi, take on the Chargers. 40-point total. Chiefs 7-point road favorites. Mike Dana's out. Joey Bosa's out. Junior Colson's out. Justin Herbert's been questionable. Joe Alt is out. Rashawn Slater is out. It is a Walgreens receipt of inactives and injuries right now for the Chargers. What does that mean for the Chiefs offense? I mean, realistically, if the Chargers can't maintain anything on the offensive side, the Chiefs should, by all account, have the game script in their favor, clock in their favor, the control in their favor. What they don't have is Andy Reid in the favor of putting their foot on the gas pedal and not letting it off, because Andy Reid doesn't have a tendency to do that. Rashee Rice, the only must start, but am I wrong? I mean, I'm never not going to start Kelsey. We've said it 3 weeks in a row. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm not. Who you? Yeah,
you're not starting Kelsey. He's just okay. If I've got Brock Bowers, okay, who are you starting over Kelsey?
Brock Bowers. You just said it.
You don't have both.
Okay, little Brock Bowers. That's it.
Let me see here.
I'll read them to you. Here, we'll do this. So the people. I mean, most likely, if you drafted Kelsey, you're not going to have Kittle, Kincaid, Bowers, Laporta, Andrews. Are you going to start Dalton Schultz over Kelsey?
Bowers is the only one.
I would start Zach Ertz. I would start Schultz. I would start even Conklin. That's disrespectful. I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
Let's
pump the brakes a bit.
All of them have been producing. Travis Kelsey is not. At what point do you say name value be damned? And I want production, not missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity.
Where do you have your rankings right now?
I have him right now at 15.
You have Travis Kelsey at 15?
Yeah.
What?
What has he done this season to warrant any higher?
Played second or third most snaps of any tight end in the league, and obviously opportunity is one of the things that we push.
The show's just started, baby. It's only week 3. Come on, man. Give him a break. Let's let him get warmed up.
I guess he doesn't have Derwin James to power bomb him in the middle of the field like that happened on a Thursday night football.
I saw that live. That was awesome.
That was pretty cool. I just it's hard for me to trust him. That's all.
There is something about the Chiefs with easy games. It's like there's something in the air. The perfect storm is luring. They always tend to just fold on games that they're meant to have cakewalks in.
Mm-hmm. They do.
So that's the only thing I'd say. No rationale behind it. It's just the what you would assume is an easy borderline bye week for them. They just get crushed by these random ass teams. So
it goes back to what I said at the beginning. It's Andy Reid, when he should put his foot on the throat and keep the foot on the gas and every other analogy, and it just doesn't. He really doesn't do that. And sometimes that's allows the teams to stay in it. And I don't know if this is one of those games. He knows that he would like to get Mahomes cooking. He knows he would like to get Kelsey back involved, and the blanket coverage that Kelsey's had. I mean, has it opened up Rashee Rice? Sure, it's been great. Xavier Worthy hasn't done anything, but I think outside of week 1, and I just don't know too many other options. I mean, the one question mark I have is at the running back position for the Chiefs, and
that's disgusting.
It's bad. As much as Carson Steele is a person we all want to be a thing, he does run hard. They like him in the team, but I get the feeling it's going to turn into a rotation. And if in the case CEH can return next week, which I hope he does for his mental health purposes and all, or 2 weeks from now, I guess. But I don't like that backfield.
Is Kareem Hunt playing this week?
Yeah, he's going to play this week. He was elevated already.
Kareem Hunt knows that system. He's a good back. I mean, I don't know if I'm trusting Carson, man of steel. He did okay, but he's an all-South runner. I mean,
That's it.
He's just not efficient. I mean, I don't want to put someone in there who's going to get me 43 yards and no touchdowns. And that's what I feel you're going to get out of Carson
I
Steele.
agree. I think the touchdown upside is there because he'll get the high-value touches in the red zone. But
I think it's going to be Kareem Hunt there because he's fresh. He's still, I understand he knows the offense, but he's still somewhat learning the new playbook. So, I think they're just going to probably throw him in when they're on the 1-2 yard line.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that's when Kansas City gets too creative sometimes. That's when they get their weird little quick little hitches and the laterals and not even really laterals, more so like end around type option passes that does revolve and require a little bit of knowledge of the playbook. That's what scares me about that right now for Kareem Hunt. But speaking of Kareem Hunt, here we'll do our underdog pick for this game is Kareem Hunt, 12.5 rushing yards.
Over.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
over. Yeah, I do. I think over.
Me too. I like that one, actually. I thought that was a pretty good one. Jorge, what about on the Charger side as far as a wide receiver? Quentin Johnson's been one of those guys that I still don't buy it, but at the same time, it's the flip side. We've seen production, so why would we not believe it if we don't believe the lack of production for Kelsey is indicative? I think it's Lad McConkey only, but maybe you can convince me on Quentin Johnson.
I mean, you said it right there. Like we've seen back-to-back weeks for him getting into the end zone. The question is here for this matchup with the offensive line so banged up. Will Justin Herbert have enough time to drop back in the pocket and load it up, or is he going to go for the short intermediate and get the ball out to McConkey? So I agree with you there. I think McConkey has a higher upside than Quentin Johnson this week.
There's two risks you run here with Justin Herbert and said receivers, right? If they start, let's say hypothetically, I understand it's not likely, but let's say hypothetically they get off to like a 3-4 touchdown lead, right? They're obviously benching Herbert because they're not going to risk his ankle. Now, on the flip side, they start trailing by 3-4 touchdowns, they're benching Herbert. The only time Herbert plays the whole game, if for some reason it's a neck-and-neck game and they are close and they're in it, and that's where I think Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnson and all that gets thrown in. But if it's a blowout either way, I think the wide receivers are going to struggle.
Gotcha. You talked about the pass rush, Jorge. Rachel has a question. Hello to you, first and foremost. Good morning. Cam Hayward or Chris Jones?
It's Chris Jones. This offensive line is going to get wrecked by him this week.
Yeah. And Chris Jones has already seen, it's been so funny. They have moved. Chris Jones will basically tell the other defensive lineman, regardless of the play call, and Spags lets him do it. He's like, move. And he will move himself into positions that he wants to take advantage of, knowing that they, aren't going to do some kind of stunt or anything specific where his positioning will be, damaging to the defense. He's going to move all around. I think he's going to have an incredible game. I just don't like the rest of the pass rush in Kansas City so far to start the season. But this is definitely a get right game for many of them. Angie has a question as far as a half-point PPR. She needs 2 of these: Jaden Reed, Drake London, Jerome Ford, Deontay Johnson, Rashid Shaheed.
Oof.
I know. Devin Lloyd is out too, Jorge, by the way. Sorry. I know that has nothing to do with anything. But
Chad Muma. It's Chad Muma week, and his 20% tackle efficiency last week is going to carry through.
There you go.
I'm somewhat serious about that. I mean, there are only so many bodies, right, to rotate in and out, right? Need to. I would go Deontay Johnson. Andy Dalton basically looked at his number 1 wide receiver last week, and that's all he looked at, which was Deontay Johnson. And I would go, man, Olave is playing. That just was released, so that kind of bumps down Shaheed.
Jaden Reed or Drake London is.
Reed. It's the top. Yeah.
That's me too, especially with Jordan Love. Him and Jaden Reed have great established rapport. I think that I like Drake London, but just the nod to Reed there. So we got
I'm going London Bridge on this one. I mean, I think that Kirk Cousins, he's one of the few passing quarterbacks in the league that really likes to step back and throw. He likes looking London's way. Now, I'm not saying London's going to be wide receiver 1 overall or anything, but I think he gets the targets. He's going to get the opportunities. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. But, he's been the wide receiver 12 over the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, it's there. I like Drake London.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too far. I mean, I think those 3 are ideal. Maybe in half point it is London instead of full point, because I guess maybe the volume that I expect to go.
He can run a decent amount of the route tree, Drake London.
Yeah.
Now, is he extremely elite? Probably not, but they'll trust him on all sorts of routes.
All right. Well, with the rest of this Chiefs and Chargers game, I don't see any other players on the offensive side that need talking up. On the defensive side, we talked about Chris Jones, Jorge. Nick Bolton had, I would say the one thing with him that I noticed, he had 2 different instances where he was clutching his lower back and had to leave the game, came back in, made the biggest play of the game on 4th down to end the game. But it's something to pay attention to. If he's out at any point, Drew Tranquil takes a bigger role, and then Leo Chanel, whatever, slide in. Anybody else on the Chiefs side or the Charger that you like in this matchup?
So we talked about him earlier with Charlene's question as Shamari Connor. I definitely like him, and as somebody, yes, he only Brian Cook and Justin Reed are in the 90s in snap percentages, but I think Connor has a good matchup this week. For the aforementioned Chargers, man, Tui Tulua, God damn it, I always mess up his name. Thank you. Taking over for Joey Bosa. I think Mac gets a lot of attention this week, which frees up Tui. One more time. Come on.
Tuli Tuipulotu.
Tuipulotu, yes. I think he gets good opportunities here to get to Mahomes, at least for a sack or a quarterback hit or tackle for a loss. And then as far as linebacking position, Dan Henley has been playing really well, the Washington State Cougar, the past couple weeks. Then Perryman, but Perryman further down, then Henley. And then at the defensive back position, Aloy Gilman seems to fill in for box snaps whenever Derwin James seems to go out. They kind of shift him away from free safety, put him closer to the line of scrimmage. So those would be the people I would be starting for those 2 teams.
There you go. And there you have it. So moving on to the Cleveland Browns traveling to Vegas. So 1.5 point road favorites for Cleveland. It's a 36.5 point total. Gross. Jack Conklin out, David Njoku out, Pierre Strong out, Jedrick Wills out, Max Crosby out, Devontae Adams out, Devon Diablo out, Michael Mayer out. I'm out. I want nothing to do with this game outside of Brock Bowers. But at the same time, that's not true, because Amari Cooper to get back on the good side of things after last week where we had a shit on Amari Cooper fest for anybody listening that was, well, they're not listening anymore because we told everybody to sit Amari Cooper and he put up 2 touchdowns and, top 5 finish on the week. So thank you for listening last week. Promise not to let everybody down this week. Jerome Ford, though, got the workhorse role again. Same thing to expect this week, or do we get tricked again and see, Deontay Foreman back in the mix, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not that excited about Jerome Ford. Maybe if it's your flex, I can live with it. I don't want to play, any of that backfield at all, to be completely honest with you. I was reading, they're looking to try get Nick Chubb back in the next couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So I think he's on his way out.
Yeah, I don't like any of that. I don't like any of the pass catchers on the Raiders. We've talked enough about Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker that they're both just, if you have to throw it against a wall, see if it sticks.
It's Bowles and Meyer for me. That's really it. It's Bowles and Meyer. I mean, that's, you're not trusting the backfield as well. I mean, Zamir White is just awful. Madison showed flashes, but yeah.
Yeah. And even Myers, like I said, I'm a little tempered expectations because I think the Cleveland secondary is very potent and can shut down, Myers. But either way, I mean, he's going to see 25 to 30% of the targets, and Bowers will get the rest.
Yeah.
If those targets from Vegas turn into, nothing, and Cleveland gets the ball enough, and they do run the ball and over the middle, Jorge, this underdog pick, could mean a one linebacker who's no competition, Robert Spillane, higher or lower than 10.5 combined tackles.
Man, because he's one of my top linebackers this week and has been very deserving of it. I think that's a little bit too high, so I'm going to go lower, but not by much. I think it gets you to 10 and just not that 10.5, to be honest with you.
Okay. We're going to go lower. That was a tricky one, I will admit, but I want to get a couple of the IDP ones in because I know that, vary it up just a little bit.
People, exactly.
The Sunday night game is going to be a great one. It is Buffalo at Baltimore. Baltimore's 2.5-point favorites. It's a 46.5-point total. Terrell Bernard is out. Taron Johnson's out. Short of that, we got loaded stacked teams on both. Josh Allen, you're starting. Lamar Jackson, you're starting. James Cook, Derrick Henry, no doubters. The only questionable ones that I don't think are questionable ones are, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Rashad Bateman, or the Baltimore tight ends. We're starting Khalil Shakir, correct? At this point, I think. We're starting Zay Flowers at this point, correct? And Dalton Kincaid is back in our good graces, right? What are we doing with those other guys? You have to pick one more Buffalo pass catcher outside of Kincaid and Shakir. Who is it, Dave?
Trusting Mac Hollins? I mean, in a deep league, I could possibly be convinced to go there, but I mean, there's other options.
I know. What about Keon Coleman for you?
I just don't trust him enough, to be honest. No.
I don't either.
Yeah. Because you got two tight ends who are really big body tight ends who are pretty much wide receivers there anyway. So it's not like it's a wide receiver room and tight ends are secondary. I think in Buffalo, the wide receivers come second behind Kincaid and why am I having a mind blank? What's his name?
Who? Dawson Knox?
Knox. I don't know. Just went blank for a second. Yeah,
it happens. Trust me, it happens to me more than I like to admit. But I don't know. I feel like everybody's an ancillary piece. That in this game with the explosive output, they're all more dart throw plays. Jorge, that I wouldn't be shocked to see Keon Coleman go 3 for 65 and a touchdown or something outlandish with Rashad Bateman catches 4 balls and scores a touchdown. All of those are outcomes. I think the Baltimore tight end room is the one that has most people concerned, and rightfully so. They're starting, we saw Mark Andrews snap counts go from 70% to 60% to 30% this past week. He's got Dave, I pulled this up, is that out of 92 eligible pass catchers that have ran, whatever it is, 20 routes, he is 84th out of 92 in targets per route run, which is just, he was running routes, wasn't getting targeted. Who's shockingly even worse than that? Sam Laporta.
Really?
So, yeah, Laporta was below. Laporta was like 88th out of 92.
Wow.
I know. So
is Laporta out this week, or is he playing?
I think he's going to play.
Okay.
But it's Monday night, and so you have to make a decision, which is tricky for people, because there's some people that might have, the good news is if you have Laporta, you probably picked up one of the waiver guys, like Jorge said earlier, with Zach Ertz, who I think would be a spectacular play if you were concerned. If Laporta was still game time decision, I'm starting Zach Ertz over him. If he was game time decision, I'm looking at someone like, I would start Dalton Schultz over him. I would consider someone like, I don't want to do Conklin again. That just seems like a one-off, but there's plenty of names. Dallas Goedert's my number one on the week, but let's do the underdog pick.
Who do you have as your number one tight end overall?
Dallas Goedert.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. Last week was an anomaly for the yardage. I don't think he does that again, but I think 10 to 12 targets is within sight, and he can make hay with that for sure. Balin Spector, Jorge, we talked about him earlier. Linebacker, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
He's averaging 8 tackles per game over 2 games. One high game, one low game. The underdog pick is set at 7.5 combined tackles. You going higher or lower?
Higher.
I'm taking the higher on this one too. Dave, a lot of these names, you go, who the hell are these people?
Yeah, when there's trying to Google them, to be honest.
Save your time. It's not worth it. You won't find much other than no Terrell Bernard, no Matt Milano. Everybody's been hurt for the Bills linebacking core. And so Balin Spector is the next guy up, and he plays every down. So he's on the field a lot in a game that should see plenty of tackle potential. Rest of the IDP side of there, Jorge. Buffalo. How can you possibly put Von Miller in your lineup, but how can you possibly not put him in your lineup based off what he's done?
Right. So was it 3 straight games, 3 straight sacks, 3 straight games playing 30% of snaps or fewer. But you know what? He's outproducing Rousseau, who's playing the majority of snaps there. So it's kind of like, he's like the last year Justin Matabuki just follow the sacks, right? At a certain point, I wouldn't, if you put Von Miller in your lineup, I wouldn't say, "Ooh, that was a horrible decision," because he's been producing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Baltimore side of things, Dafiowe, Roquan.
I like that. Yeah, I also like Van Noy to a certain degree. I think he jumped David Ojabo in terms of snap percentages this past week, if memory serves me correctly. So I definitely like his production. But you're right, Roquan, no Trenton Simpson. Man, Kyle Hamilton. What are we doing with Kyle? If Kyle Hamilton's on your roster, what are you doing there, Nate?
I'm still starting him just because we saw last week. I say I don't like him in the slot. That takes away a lot of his upside. He gives us, a DB1 finish. This week can be the same. I think that his likelihood to get phased out is difficult because I believe in a game against Buffalo, they even without him playing the whatever you want to call it, joker role or whatever, different terms for different teams where he bounces around, he's more slot than anything. I think they'll still try to match him up to slow down an offense that's this capable as Buffalo is. So, I still think 7 tackles is probably about where I have him, which isn't much. You need a splash play to really impact that, but I think his likelihood for something is there. So let's go to the last 2 games, Monday night games, wrap through these since it's past 12 o'clock on the Eastern time zone. Dave, it's 10 o'clock there for you? So
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Sorry. Better at weather than time zones. So Tennessee at Miami, another gross one. Miami 1.5-point favorites at home, 36.5-point total. Jeffrey Simmons has had back-to-back, did not practices. Don't know his status quite yet. Tron Armstead didn't practice because of a concussion. We know we're starting Devin Achane. I don't think there's any way we can sit Tyreek Hill despite our inclinations to do so. Jalen Waddle's the question one, though, Jorge. What are you doing with Jalen Waddle if he's in your wide receiver spot? I mean, are you – I know
starting.
that's indicative. Are you? Okay.
Like I talked earlier about how I feel it was a start to the question, and I was okay with, sitting Hill. I feel more confident in Snoop going to Waddle than I think him going for Tyreek Hill.
Okay. All right. That's going to be that's something definitely Monday night we will all see unfold is how he looks, and how McDaniel will focus that offense to is it going to be just put the ball in Tyreek's hand? He's more capable of doing things in different positions, or Jalen Waddle. I feel like I've just completely abandoned how good Jalen Waddle is because of the quarterback. So, I mean, I do have him down further, but he's probably in my lineup too. Tony Pollard's bet is going to be in our lineup, right? Even though last week was a letdown, Tennessee just abandoned the run altogether. It was a combination of both. So I think they'll keep him in. What about the Tennessee side of things? Will Levis has been a turnover machine, but this could be a pretty decent game for him. Miami's pass defense hasn't exactly been shut down, especially considering when you look beyond the numbers. So if you look at just fantasy points against, you look at quarterback, you look at wide receiver, and you're like, oh, Miami's been great. Look at the games they've been. The Buffalo game was a blowout. There have been just one-off situations. So are you comfortable with Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins? If you had to choose one, Dave, which way are you leaning? Ridley or D-Hop?
I'm going DeAndre Hopkins, and I actually am pretty confident in Hopkins this week. I'm iffy about choosing him or Amari Cooper in my flex. I don't know. I think he got peppered with targets. He was efficient. He found the end zone. And, I mean, you look at Will Levis last year, he was just looking Hopkins' way. Hopkins can still do it, man. I mean, I know he warmed up to the first couple of weeks, but he's now full speed.
Mm-hmm.
I like Hopkins.
Okay. Underdog pick, guys. Jonnu Smith, quarterback, Scholar Tom.
Whatever it is, it's under. I don't even know what it is.
1.5 receptions.
It's under.
Under. I'm going under.
Okay. There you go. IDP side of things, Jorge, Tennessee, we know no Jeffrey Simmons, but at linebacker,
Ernest Jones got it back up to, he's 17.5% tackle efficiency, playing 100% of snaps. He's good to go. For Miami, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say L'Jarius Sneed's outside wide, so he's not a name that I'm too terribly concerned with. Miami side, Jalen Phillips still hasn't quite. He's trending in the right direction to get in there. Against a Tennessee offensive line that, we've seen Will Levis turn the ball over a ton. Does that mean there's a Miami player that is likely for an interception? Or, are you looking at splash plays more than anything else, or high tackle volume?
Probably smash plays. I think this is like a Javon Holland game where he just drops a little bit more into coverage and makes a splash play there. But Jordan Brooks, is a linebacker who I'm comfortable starting. Nobody up front. Jalen Phillips, like you said, coming off of that Achilles. But the way Will Levis is, playing, he could just walk into a sack, but not something you want to bank on for your IDP starting spot.
Right. Here's the last start sits right here. It's a good one, Ryan. So, man, Najee, Cooper, Pickens, full point PPR. Man, I think I'm leaning Pickens. Dave?
Going Cooper. I'm waiting for the Justin Fields collapse game. I feel like it's any second now. It's not that I don't think Pickens is a quality receiver. He's a great receiver, but it's who's throwing him the ball. And there's going to be one game where Russell Wilson comes in.
Not today. He's inactive.
Oh, he's inactive. I didn't know that.
Yep, inactive again. Here's the question I have. You say look at the quarterback, but yet that's the reason I'm out on Cooper is because of Deshaun Watson. Now, if you told me it was Jameis Winston, I'll take Cooper over Pickens. And I think that's what I was going to get to at some point.
Yeah, but I think
this-
it's Watson has not played properly yet. When was the last time he played a full season? You know, I mean, he's been pretty much recovering, either lying on his back getting massages, and now the blood's rushing to his head because he's standing up. You know, so give him a chance to get warmed up. Deshaun Watson in 27.
It's Deshaun Washington is what it is.
That's what he is. Yeah.
Prime Watson was
3 years ago.
2. Yeah, but he was top 2, 3 quarterback. He has that potential that's in him.
I know.
Cooper is a great receiver. I don't know. I mean,
he is. This isn't a knock against Cooper.
Ceiling is there. The ceiling is there. That's all I'm saying, is that the potential ceiling is there.
Unfortunately, in this situation, it's only one in a flex, and we have to choose. And so, like, I'm in agreement with Ryan. That he really waiting for the field to blow up. I don't know if this offense is capable of like a high passing volume predicated on the run and play action through Arthur Smith, but Fields to Pickens Cooper would be my number 2. As much as I like Najee with the volume, I think in a full point PPR that changes things just enough there. Let's go to the final game. Seattle at Detroit Monday night. Boye Mafe's out. Leonard Williams is out. Uchenna Nwosu. On Detroit side, Frank Ragnow's out. Geno Smith has been solid. I think Geno and Jared Goff is an interesting conversation to have because everybody wants to have Jared Goff. Well, everybody meaning me. I want Jared Goff to have the Jared Goff week that I'm expecting. And this is the week that I wouldn't have expected it against Seattle by comparison to the first 3 weeks. Is this the week that we get it with Jared Goff, Jorge?
Yeah, I mean, when you have one of the best offensive lines in all of football, and your opponent has all their starting defensive linemen for the most part out, he's gonna have quite a game.
I mean, Seattle made Jacoby, Tri-Tip, and Brisket look like he was a decent quarterback. So
yeah,
I think if Goff's going to have a game, it's today.
There we go. And it's the only positive thing. I mean, Seattle has Devin Witherspoon in the slot, which doesn't take out Jameson Williams necessarily because he's out wide. Doesn't really take out any one particular person. But I think that it's just somebody's not going to get theirs. And I don't know who that is going to be. If that's, if Laporta plays, if it's again a Laporta game where they haven't been able to, no team really can get 3 pass catchers plus having Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery all in. And I think all those guys are in my lineup. I can't sit any of them considering the potential for the upside that they possess, correct? On the Detroit side,
Right.
That is.
That's correct.
On the Seattle side, though, Dave, the JSN talk we've had, it's pretty much DK is my solid wide receiver I'm starting. I hate to sit JSN. I don't really care. I haven't played Tyler Lockett at all, but we've talked enough about Kenneth Walker. What is there another offensive player on Seattle that I'm missing that you think from a deep league that you're considering, or am I
still play Charbonnet? You look at week 1 when they were both on the field. Charbonnet had with that receiving touchdown. I think he still has some PPR upside as a flex.
Okay, that's a great point. That was going to be one of the considerations, just because of the fact that they're likely going to be trailing in the game, even though it's only a 3.5 point home favorite, which is a shockingly low point total. I think that says a lot about their offense and the potential to move the ball. How about the potential on the defensive side, Jorge? Take us home. Tyrell Dodson on Seattle.
Yeah, although Tyrese Knight played more efficiently, which I thought was kind of interesting. Rayshon Jenkins is back in our good graces here for the defensive back position, switching over to the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson, the linebacker. If Anzalone is back, Anzalone is back. He is playing this week. Him. Brian Branch, defensive back for the Lions. Those are the guys that I'm excited about.
Well, and that takes us through the week 4 of the NFL slate. So, I mean, being quarter past, I think obviously we'll sign out of here and wish everybody well on their lineup. But Dave, fantastic having you on. I'm glad that the internet gave you the good graces there, Jorge.
Yeah, I'll get that fixed up by next week.
You're fine. Don't even sweat it. I couldn't tell it was bad. It's probably just bad on your end. Looks fine over here.
Yeah, you're good.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any final words of wisdom, Jorge?
Just have fun with it. Thank you all very much for tuning in. All the people who are new to the show, or people who are here in week out. We truly love you and appreciate you. Make sure you follow us on all our social media channels that you can see on the screen, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Head over to fantasyandframes.com, read all of our articles during the week, as well as check out our rankings and check out all of our shows, starting with our college show on Monday, heading up with our waiver show, our hockey show, our betting shows, our core podcasts, and our DFS show on Friday nights, as well as come back next week and we'll answer all your questions and go through every single game like we do, and just keep this train rolling.
All right. Well, we will catch you all next week. Good luck.